6 o'clock, I call this meeting of the Chelmsford School Committee to order. Can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. This meeting is being televised by Chelmsford Telemedia. Is anyone else present that plans to record? Okay, great. All right, so welcome to this meeting of the Chelmsford School Committee. We have a couple presentations to go tonight, so we're going to get started with the approval of our minutes from our meeting on December 3rd.
I make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from December 3rd, 2019.
Second.
Okay, any corrections or any comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, 5-0. Okay, next up are Chelmsford High School representatives.
Hello, everyone. These are updates on our school. So there's a school concert on January 9th at 7 p.m. at the PAC. And on January 11th, there's a choral fest at the PAC for grades 4 through 12. On January 17th, there's an in-tune performance at the PAC at 7 p.m. and the money goes to charity. And also, DECA districts were today and 19 students qualified for states. And there you go.
So due to snow days, mid-year exams have been moved to start on January 22nd, and applications for the senior capstone are being collected until the end of the week. Also, there is a new speaker in the gym, which is working very well, and the wall near the gym has been redone and was given by the class of 2019. Also, rehearsals are going on for the children's play that will be at the end of the month.
And also, there was a CHS 719 newscast that is now available on the Educational Channel and YouTube. It was released right before the break, and so just want to let people know about that.
Great, thank you very much. All right, any other good news? Yeah.
On December 12th, I went to the McCarthy Chorus Winter Concert under the direction of Jody Richardson, and they did a wonderful job. It's a hugely eclectic amount of music, and I think my favorite was 12 Days After Christmas. It was a funny what you do with the 12 gifts you got during Christmas. It was a really enthusiastic job. Everything from folk music to an a cappella. The 8th graders did an a cappella version of Mary, Did You Know? That was just beautiful. They did a wonderful job. Excuse me. Then on the day before, I went to the high school winter concert. It's kind of like old times when I used to do that when I worked at the high school. The symphony band, under the direction of Matt Sexauer, did a song by John Philip Sousa all the way to Leonard Bernstein. The treble choir, under the direction of Amanda Rhoda, did Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening. So anything with Robert Frost as an English major was good by me. And they finished, the concert choir did Sleigh Ride with the jazz band accompanying them. And then the orchestra, under the direction of Kate Como, did a song, Mother Ginger from the Nutcracker, and the St. Paul Suite by Gustav Holsten, which included a version of Greensleeves. And finally, excuse me, traditionally they always do the Hallelujah concert choir, the Hallelujah chorus from the Messiah, and normally graduates will come up and sing. Back in 1983, Don Defasay was a freshman at Chelmsford High in the performing arts. I saw him the other night. It was his 36th consecutive singing of the chorus. He's come back every year. And I think the only people who probably have a longer streak would be Carl Rondina and his family, who directed it forever. So they did a wonderful job. And, congratulations to everyone involved, the students. We have such talented students with the concert coming up this Thursday night with the jazz band and the a cappella group and the orchestra and the wind ensemble, and to fine arts coordinator, Dr. Christy Whittlesey. They do a really fine job. And finally, as students mentioned, former Dean Bernie Battle and I were judges today at the DECA district competition, and our students did a phenomenal job. And that goes to congratulate the advisors, Andy Shoup and Tom Souza, who do a great job every year. And teacher Rob Russo was there to help out. So it was a good success.
Great. Anybody else have any good news? Okay. All right, so we're moving on now to the public input part of our meeting. Anyone who would like to speak to the committee about any of the items on tonight's agenda, please come forward and state your name and address. Okay, then moving on. We're now to new business. If it's okay with the committee, I'd like to flip kind of the presentations and have Byam School go before the social studies, if that's all right with everybody. Great. Okay.
So, great, we'll do that. So we're gonna have the Byam School make the presentation this evening. So I'd invite Principal Jason Fredette, and I saw Betsy Dolan, the assistant principal, here somewhere. Love to have you guys come on up. Hear about some of the work that's taking place at the Byam Elementary School. As you know, each of our school committee meetings, we typically have one of our schools come up and do a little presentation on some of the work that's occurring at their school, and our departments come up as well. We've got 2 tonight because we got snowed out of our last school committee meeting. But first up is Jason and Betsy for the Byam, so happy you could join us tonight.
Thank you so much for having us. So this has been a great, I think, tradition Jay's brought. We used to sit and go over our school improvement plans line by line with school committee, which I'm sure was amazing for the viewers at home and everyone present. So changed it up, and we've been able to bring kind of schools and have a showcase. And over time, Jay gives the principals and coordinators some advice and has said, if you bring the kids, school committee takes it easy on you. They don't have a lot of questions. They really enjoy the presentations. So we decided to do that at Byam today. So you can see, hopefully, we've brought several students. Big thank you to all their families who have brought them out. Hopefully they get homework passes tomorrow for everybody. I'm sure their teachers will do that. So we're thrilled to be here. Both Betsy and I and our school council has kind of come up with a vision this year. And we've over the years gone through things like PBIS you've heard us talk about and different curriculum options. So we tried to think a little bit out of the box and how we could showcase some of our students and some things that are unique to Byam. So I have my little clicker here. We really wanted to think about kind of Byam Inspires as our theme. And we hope that, when our students come through the door, when our staff come through the door, families and community members, they do feel inspired by our school, because I know certainly I am every day that I come in, and I hope that's the case for everybody. So we wanted to really set that as a theme. So we're going to be talking about a few different areas. And you're going to hear me talk less than you've ever heard me at one of these meetings, so you're all really grateful, I know. Brevity is really not one of my strengths, so this is hopefully going to work tonight. We're going to talk about one of our literacy programs in kindergarten, which is Louie's Loot, and we'll have some Mrs. O'Donnell and some of our kindergarten students come up. Then we're going to go the other end of the spectrum in 4th grade and talk about an annual math facts night that we have for our 4th grade students. And we'll have Miss Babson and some of students come up, and there will be some audience participation, just giving you guys a heads up here. You're ready to go. Then we had actually a great piece that we wanted to tie in our BSA, which is Byam's PTO, and does amazing things for our school, and brought in a program that really kind of touched a lot of people this year. And we're going to have one of our students, Carolyn Deere, talk about how that inspired her. Betsy and some of our Pride ambassadors, which is like our 4th grade school council, be talking about kind of what they do as Pride ambassadors, but also how we can really work on student and staff culture as well. And then we have Mr. Graber, our wonderful music teacher, and is going to talk a little about the ukulele program that he's brought to Byam. So we hopefully have a little different spin on some things this evening, and hope you'll enjoy that. Jake, just give me the nod if we're going too long, and I know we have a wonderful presentation on social studies this evening, and so we will get you to that as well. So if we could certainly start off by having our kindergartners come up with Mrs. O. Oh, backwards.
Are you staying? Or you
I will stay. I can go.
just, if you
Yep.
scooch down, I just
We'll
want to
scooch
go
down.
see my friends. Okay.
Yeah.
One big chair for you, Trevor. One big chair for you, Alexis. Will you come over here? We'll come on this one. I want to come in the middle of you. Okay. Yay! Are you coming too? Okay. Do you want to share my chair? Well, we're kind of out of chairs. Do you want to share Will's? Okay, share Will's. Hi, everybody. So excited. How cute are we? So I'm excited to come tonight to tell you a little bit about our kindergarten home reading program. We call it Louie's Loot because Louie is our school mascot, right? And Loot is special treasure, right, friends?
And our reading program consists of books and activities, reading activities for the children to do at home that are specific to their individual reading level. And before I talk to my friends, I just want to tell a little bit about why we started this program. And we know there's plenty of research that says that kids need to be reading at home, but there's not a lot of material for emergent readers out in the public, in Barnes & Noble or on Amazon. So we know that we have thousands and thousands of titles in our schools, but they're really not very useful all through the night, locked up in the school. We wanted to get them in the kids' hands. So we developed this program so that families had access to some emergent reading materials that the kids could practice at home. Inside the bags, there are emergent reading books. There are cards with letters to practice sounds. There are cards to practice sight words. And also a selection of ideas of games that the parents can play to practice those things. So now, friends, I want you to think about what is it that is the most fun that you get to do with your Louie Loop bag, okay? And we're gonna give everybody a turn to tell what your favorite thing to do at home with your Louie Loop stuff, okay? So Greta, will you wanna tell us, what do you like to do with your Louie Loop stuff?
I like to do read stuff, like read the books, because we can change them every day and know about the sight words.
Oh, yeah, it's true. I love that you mentioned that we get to change our books. It's true, and the children actually make the changes themselves. So every week they get to pick new books. And there's lots of research that tells us that when kids are in control of what they're reading, they want to do it more, right? So that's really a good point. Thank you, Greta. All right, Alexis, tell us, what's your favorite thing to do in your reading bag?
I like to do the sight words with my mommy, because we do them a lot together and with family.
Terrific. It's so fun, right? Okay, so what do you think? What do you like to do with your Louie Loop bag?
I just like to read.
Read the books? Yeah, awesome. What do you like to do, Will?
I like to read the books.
You do? So great. We have so many to choose from, right? Terrific. So awesome. All right, so now some of our friends are going to show off a little bit, right? Will you show us your books and maybe read the titles of your books that you have in your bag?
Flying balloons.
And then show it just like
The fishing trip. Bigger.
And have you practiced those books at home?
I didn't see that
Terrific.
one.
All right, awesome. All right, so Alexis, your favorite thing was the sight words, right? Let's just show everybody, just really super quick, what that might look like, right? Do you like the pink ones or the blue ones?
Pink.
2 different levels, so that when the friends are ready for the blue ones, they practice the blue ones. But first, we start off with this first group. Oh my gosh, ready? Easy. I. It's a letter, it's a word, it's a word, it's a letter, it's a letter, it's a word. So good. All right, ready? How about this one?
Do. Up.
Up. Right. Awesome, awesome. What about this one? Oops. There you go. Is. Awesome. See? Easy like that. You've done a lot of practicing, I can tell. All right. Now, Greta, there was one thing that was super special, right, when we got our bags.
Uh-huh.
Can you tell us, remember, we all got together in the cafeteria. What happened? What did we do?
Louis the lion came.
He did, right? And what did he give us?
The Louis Loop bag.
He did. He came and he gave us all of our Louie Loop bags. Wasn't that so fun?
Uh-huh.
Hey! Look who's here! Hi! What a special thing. He even came tonight. Hi, Louie. Awesome job. Oh, Mr. Red, that's so silly. All right, friends. Does anybody want to tell anything else about our Louie Loop bags? Any other ideas? Yes, Greta, go ahead.
The sight words sometimes can get tricky and trickier.
It's right. Yep, but you know what? practice makes progress, right? So you keep practicing and you get better and better. Terrific. You have something else? Okay, what else?
I like doing the books with my mommy because she helps me a lot.
Oh, that's so great. Such a great experience for them to have at home. Any other ideas? No? All right, let's say goodbye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Let's go get
Bye.
Thank you, kindergartners. Now, Louis does not often make field trips away from Byam, so this was a special occasion that we had Louis. Thank you, Louis.
Aaron on TV.
Such a good sport. Okay, so actually, there's not a mascot for this portion, so that's kind of.
I do have to say, you're outdoing yourself so far. You're doing a very good job.
Thank you.
Very good job.
So people are very competitive about their presentations, so we try to change it up a little. So next, we're going to bring up Miss Babson, and I think is Miss Ablett going to join us with the group too, or if she, or she'll say, okay, yep, if you want. And then we have some of our fourth graders talk about our annual fourth grade family fact night, math fact night. So we have our fourth graders, and Miss Babson, come on and join us up here.
Hi, everybody. So we're going to set this up a little bit differently. We're going to move this out, Colton, because you will be standing. Nick, you'll be standing. And Ella and I will be sitting. So anyone, I'm Miss Babson. I'm a fourth grade teacher at Byam Elementary. And this is Colton Jarek and Nick Lindbergh.
Hi.
And Ella Moses, and they're here to show you how our math night works. So, we all know that you need to know your math facts, especially multiplication, by fourth grade, correct? Correct, everybody? Yes. So, the teachers at Byam, we got together and we were trying to think of a creative way to help our students learn their math facts. So we decided that we were going to create a family math night, which focuses on the student and the parent playing games. So they'll go to the family math night. It's all set up. There's about 12 different multiplication games. They get to play with their parents. They get to leave. They don't have math homework that night. And they get some die and a pack of cards. So there's lots and lots of fun games, and I asked these three to come and show all of you their favorite math game. But before we start, we just wanted to also pass out to all of you our packets that the fourth grade teachers put together for the math night. So can you guys pass those out, please? Yeah, you can just go, Ella, right down there.
Thank you. Thank you.
And at this night, too, we have lots of volunteers. Some of the other teachers in the building volunteer. Jason and Betsy come. We also, this year, had the National Honor Society kids come and help volunteer. So it's really become a Byam community get-together while learning math at the same time. So, Nick, why don't you start and tell everybody the game that we picked.
The game we are going to play is our favorite game. It is known as Salute. You can find that fourth to last page in your packet. The objective of the game is to find out the missing factor.
And we also do this so the kids can learn their math facts more fluent, and for better accuracy. So would you like to explain what you do, Ella?
So I'm going to be the captain of the game. I'm going to give them each a card, and they're going to put them to their forehead, and they can't look at them.
And what are these cards on their foreheads?
They're factors, and they're going to try to find out what their factor is
After showing?
after showing the product.
Okay.
So the product is 90.
9, 10.
Okay. Nice job. We'll do one more. We can get a little competitive.
Let's see it.
Okay, let's see.
7, 8.
So we 56, 7, and 8 were the factors. So now they want to, we're going to show you how to play. So they each are going to go and pick 2 people, and they'll be the captain, and you'll have to play salute. So we hope you know your math facts. So Ella, you're going to go to your dad, and Nick, you'll go to Dr. Lane. And Colton, here. Would you like a multiplication table?
Before we start, this is one of our favorite ways to learn our math facts. It's you two.
Oh, we're playing against each other? All right.
Okay, so captains, pass out the cards.
You're paying attention, right? You know how this game goes?
So, Mr. Doherty, you 2 are going to be the unknown factors, and Colton's going to be your
Why don't I get one?
captain.
You're gonna tell us this.
Get ready.
Okay, guys.
Now you start.
Oh, okay, I get it now.
You good? All right.
So I get a 5.
6.
So you've got, it would be
One.
0.
I forget this one. Oh, 42.
She wins. I have 6 and you have
Oh, no, that was fast.
6. I have 6, you have 1.
Yep, correct. We'll do one more round.
Oh, you said 28.
Am I guessing his or I'm guessing
Ace is the
mine?
one,
Let's do
right?
another one.
All right, I get it.
Dr. Lang, I think you were a little slow there.
Sorry.
6 again? I get C.
Nice job.
Wait, can we do like math around the world?
No, you just need to do salute.
5.
Oh, we want to do
So
another
competitive.
game.
She's so
Okay.
well, they're taking so long. What do you have?
7. You say 35?
Yeah.
Sorry. Now let's do one more time.
35.
All right, ready?
It's very difficult. It's very difficult. All ready?
5. Wait, I'm looking at you.
27.
9.
No, you have to name your unknown factor.
Here's-
Not hers. You see the
Nice
five.
job. Took him a while. Thank you.
7. Want to play with him once?
7.
You played the ball.
But thank you. That was fun.
All right, thank you very
All
much.
right. Thank you very much.
It was cool.
I think
Eight's
the one
always
was throwing me off.
The one,
I got it.
So
I
did you
had,
get the
I had a
game?
tough time on the first one, but I got it
Great
after that.
way to reinforce the multiplication facts, and they don't even realize that they're
Donna cheated, so I
learning them
lose.
because they think
What
they
else
do.
is new?
I think maybe Dr. Lang should run that booth next year at the.
Yeah, I think you might
salute
need a
booth.
little bit.
Well, now I have it down now, so I'm going to read my directions, and I'll be happy to come.
Cool. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, so again, this is one of our favorite ways to learn how to do our math facts and learn our products for multiplication.
And did you guys have fun at math night?
Yes.
It was a blast, so thank you very much.
Thank you, fourth graders. Thank you, Ms. Batson.
And practice your math facts.
All right,
Yes,
next, if I
those
can
are for
have
you guys.
Mrs. Harris, Katie Harris, and Carolyn Deere come up. Love all the dresses tonight. This is great. So one of the things that we wanted to highlight too was how much our Byam School Association, our PTO, means to the fabric of our school. And this year, we brought in an enrichment, and some of you might have, he's been around for years, and he's come to many of the schools, and you might see some of his paintings in some of our schools. I know South Row, Harrington, they hang as well. Rob Surratt, he's a local North Andover gentleman who does speed painting. But beyond, which is amazing in itself, to watch him do some of his speed painting, but beyond that, his message is really, really moving. And I think, you know, I could talk about just not only the students that were moved after the program, but also a lot of staff. And, you know, probably one of the highest rated, you know, it's really a big production that he puts on. And you can see we'll be hanging Martin Luther King Jr. in the Byam dining room. He did that. We chose, Mrs. Dolan talked me out of Bruce Lee. I was really wanting the Bruce Lee he did. But we have, we've gone with Martin Luther. MLK Jr. is always a classic. What he does is also kind of cut it in with various things. He talks a lot about empathy and giving and how he discovered being a painter, and it is really an inspiring message, and it was really wonderful. And I want to just turn it over to Katie and Carolyn here because Carolyn was certainly moved by the presentation. We want to share kind of what came of that.
Yeah, so I'm Katie Harris. I'm a second grade teacher at Byam Elementary School, and this is one of my students.
Hi, my name is Carolyn.
And Carolyn, what was your favorite part of the Rob Surratt presentation?
I really like the Tom Brady painting.
Yes, of course. And what else did you enjoy?
I also like the 10 puppies licking the 2-year-old.
That was really a wonderful piece of it as well. And Carolyn, what inspired you about the show?
Giving is more than keeping.
Yes, so can you tell everyone, what did you do when you went home?
I drew a picture of Rob Surratt. My mom cut it out, and then I wrote a letter to him.
Yes, and now Carolyn, did you get a response?
Yes.
What did you get back?
A whole comic of his paintings.
And how did that make you feel?
Awesome.
Yeah, and so after watching the presentation and then having the opportunity to reflect and write a letter to him and then the card you got back, what does that make you inspired to do? What do you want to do now?
Make the world a better place.
Yeah, and I think that was a lot of the message that we had throughout the whole entire presentation, and I was very proud of you for taking it upon yourself to send him a letter, and even more exciting that you got a response.
He did put it on his Facebook
He did.
page too, so we did hit posted it.
I got posted.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
Wonderful opportunity for all of the students.
So thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
very
for
much.
sharing. And next, we're going to talk a bit about our Pride Ambassadors. So we'll have our Pride Ambassadors. We also have Mrs. Dolan and Ms. Zablek, who are our two advisors to the Pride Ambassadors, come up, and they're going to talk a little bit about.
We have one can sit and then the rest can stand.
And I can move myself.
Scoot right over by Mr. Cadet on the other side. And Sabla. It's okay, I can stand. Okay. So I'm just gonna lean in just so they can hear me at home. So these are wonderful Pride Ambassadors. They are our 4th graders. They're gonna introduce themselves to you, but I did want to just give a little background that this is a group that are nominated each year by their teachers for showing consistency with the 3 R's, what we call our 3 R's at Byam, with respect and being ready and responsible, and essentially being consistent role models for other, not just 4th graders, but also other students on the bus and other areas in the hallway. And so we wanted to give them an opportunity to see your school committee meeting, how that is run in the beginning here, and also just to share maybe a couple anecdotal things about what they like about being a Pride Ambassador. So I'm gonna just have them introduce their names to you and then go from there.
My name is Jack.
My name is Aiden.
My name is Danny. My name is Zoe. My name is April.
My name is Emma. My name is Ryan.
My name is Lily.
My name is Brianna.
And maybe if we could have one of you or a couple of you raise your hand if I ask you, what does being a Pride Ambassador mean? Aiden, can you lean into the microphone?
It means to use the 3 R's, respect, responsible, and ready. So you're showing pride when you walk around the halls or in your classroom to do the right thing when a teacher's not looking at you, or to just be a good role model.
That's wonderful. And what are some things that you have all sort of had ideas about bringing up and maybe bringing to our school? Maybe if one or two of you can mention something that you've talked about that you've wanted to bring to our school and work on. Go for it.
So our friend Becca, she's also on the team. She wanted to, we're giving out roars to kids in our class in 4th grade, and we're choosing once a week, and she thought about making a poster in the middle of the hallways of the Hall of Fame of who got who got the roar for the week.
And just who was being respectful that week, and they can walk around the hallway and see if their name was there. And if their name wasn't there, even if it was, it would persuade them to be good next week.
And can one of you who maybe hasn't spoken talk maybe for a second about one of the donation ideas that you had? Yeah, Danny?
So, there's a kid in Miss Babson's class named Brooke. She's not on the team, but
she and her mom came up with the idea to do a food drive, but it's not an actual food drive. It's just bringing up like hygiene materials, so like toothbrushes, toothpaste.
And so we're going to start that in the next month or two, drive for things that maybe might not be popular, things that individuals have easy access to. So they're all going to be involved in planning that. Right? And they each have, or not each of them, but they do have roars themselves. So they're going to mention a name here at the table, and if you could raise your hand just to help them out when they mention your name, and they'll just come and give you one of these roars. And these are roars that are given out to students for showing their expectations in their 3 Rs. And these guys also had the idea of wanting to give them out to fellow students in their grade, so that they're not the only ones recognized for expected behaviors, but also they would like to recognize other students in their grade for doing the right thing when maybe no one's watching, and doing that consistently, which I thought was a pretty cool idea. So if you want to maybe start at that end and just mention
Dr. Hirsch.
Yeah, so Dr. Hirsch is not here. We'll save that for her. Yeah.
Mine is to Dr. J. Lang.
First name and everything.
Yeah, Danny, do you have one?
Mine is to Dennis King.
Jeffrey Doherty. Mr. Moses. Donna Newcomb.
Maria Santos.
And then the last one, oh, go ahead.
Miss Joanna Collins.
Thank you. And I want to thank, just like Mr. Fredette mentioned, I want to thank all the parents that did a wonderful job supporting us, coming here today, and I'm really excited to see all the future work that these great role models and students have for us. So thank you very much, everyone.
One thing, too, that this gives certainly credit to Betsy, too, that she's brought. The roars have been around for a little while. She's brought staff roars, too, which is kind of a neat way. We publish a weekly staff bulletin, usually Sundays, depending if it's a Patriots game, usually around 10, and then later if it's not. But it's a nice way that we've been able to have staff recognize staff, and it's anonymous, not probably unanimous too, but anonymous, and it's a nice way for us to recognize staff so that they kind of get a roar, and we have a little box that we give our student roars, and then we have a staff box roar too. So it's nice for staff to recognize, and they've really taken to that. It is kind of nice to have people noticing the good work that you do. It's often unsaid and should be said more. So it's been a great way, and I really appreciate.
Ms. Zablack, who's hiding in the back there, also is a big helper for.
Yes, Ms. Zablack, so conveniently hiding in the back. But yep. Thank Linda Zablack. She started this with me last year. In fourth grade, and Linda had come to us from the middle school. She's brought a great from McCarthy and brought a great way of kind of giving it a student council feel, and she's really kind of integral in making this program run with the fourth graders. So thank you, Linda, as well. I'll figure this thing out. I'm going backwards every time. I think I'm holding it. Okay, so our last piece is going to be, I'm going to invite Matt Graber and our, what are they called, ukulelists, Matt? I'm not sure what they're called, but we're going to bring our ukulele musicians up, and we'll have Matt talk a little bit about the grant and the BSA funding that he got for this, and hopefully they'll play a little something for you that you'll enjoy. So come on up, Matt, and our ukulele players.
While everyone's getting their ukulele out, I'll just mention Yeah, as Jason just said, so I think it was 4 years ago, about 4 years ago, I had applied for the ATEF grant for to purchase a classroom set of ukuleles, and I was awarded that, and then also with a huge donation from the BSA. They more than doubled that as well, and I was able to get 28 ukuleles, just to make sure I always have more than, hopefully, always more than a class size would be in 4th grade. And we're just going to demonstrate a few of the things that we've done so far, and I'll show you a little bit of where I want to go the rest of the year for ukulele. So let's start with the song. Face a certain direction.
I would face the front here, just so you can't.
That will be on TV.
It'll be on TV if you face the front.
Oh. Okay, so we should face where we're facing. Okay.
Just move the chair out of the way.
All right. Let's start with Twinkle Twinkle. Count it off. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Obviously that was Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. So towards the beginning of the year, the reason that was the first song was because the beginning part, it's all open strings. You don't actually need your left hand at all. And then it took a little while to get people used to fretting. All the 4th graders are very used to playing the recorder because we start that and do it a lot in 3rd grade, where you're pushing down on holes. But this is a different thing, pushing down. You're trying to push down into the string and shorten the string to change the pitch of each string. And as they know, the first couple times it sounds more like this, because you need to figure out the right amount of pressure to use. And once they do, we can start playing songs. Around October time, there's always a special song I do. It's a call and response song. I started with 2nd grade. It's a little spooky for October. And I sing the call part, which goes, "There was an old woman, all skin and bones." The students respond with, "Ooh, ooh, ooh, ooh." We figured out that we can play this on the ukulele, on the E string. So I'm going to sing it, you do the response. There was an old woman, all skin and bones. All right, then we figured out that we can also play the call part, and we don't need to, they don't need me at all. So let's do what we did the other day. Let's go across the line, okay? So you'll play the call, the whole group will respond, and we'll give each person a chance to do it once. And where we're going now, to be honest, the last month and a half, 2 months, we haven't done much ukulele playing because we were getting ready for our winter concerts, which actually got rescheduled to next week because we got snowed out of our concert. But we're getting back into it, and the real reason I wanted to do ukuleles is because we can do this. We can learn to play chords and then accompany ourselves rather than just play melodies. So the very first chord that everyone's learned is called a C7 chord, and let's play it. All right, and there's only one song I know that actually only uses this one chord, and you probably, let's get into just playing this. You may have heard it. It goes, "You put the lime in the coconut." Okay, so very few songs only use one chord. Where we're going right now, all the classes have just learned that, and we're about to learn our second chord, which is the F chord. This group has just started to do it. We're going to move that first finger up, cover here, and we have a beautiful F chord. You can play it with me. And where we're going for the rest of the year is starting to learn to change chords, which takes quite a while. So let's switch to the C7. 1, 2, C7. Try to go back to the F. 1, 2, and back to the F. And we'll end it right there. Great, and that's where we're going. We're going to learn a lot of songs, and then even some pop rock stuff, because we really only need a couple chords and we can play tons of fun songs. So that's it. Thank you guys so much, and thank you.
All right, so that actually concludes our presentation in record time. I hope that you hopefully enjoyed it and got a sense that it's a place where students hopefully are coming and enjoying themselves. I know staff does too. I hope you got a good piece of that today. So we certainly wanted to answer any questions, and we could bring anyone up. We told them to be ready for questions, but certainly thank you so much for the opportunity to share all the good things that are happening.
Thank you.
Questions?
I don't have a question, but I do want to make a comment. So the first thing is, I think you highlighted very clearly that you have a very nice community, that no question about it, the teachers and your staff are putting in a tremendous amount of extra work, because there's no way that you can come up with these type of programs without staff commitment at a very high level. So I really want to commend all the teachers and your staff for coming up with these incredibly creative, wonderful ways of teaching. And I look forward to the future. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Yeah, very, very true. Thank you for noticing that.
It's the same thing
Probably
with
don't hear that
parents.
enough. We do have creative, dedicated, and wonderful staff that are really the backbone of this wonderful community. So thank you for
Yes.
recognizing
And parents
that.
too. It's wonderful to see things going home and being learned and parents participating and doing all these things. But there is no way this can happen without staff commitment.
Anybody else?
Just a comment. I just wanted to say, as somebody who got to experience the Byam firsthand as a parent and with my peers, how appreciative I am of the work you guys put into these programs and into the kids. The outcomes in my household have been great. And just overall, it has a really great culture, and the teachers just do such a wonderful job with our children, and they love going to school, I think. He's here, he might. My son might disagree, but thank you for all the work you guys put into it.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
No, just two things. Thank you very much. It was a great
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you.
I think it was nice to see all the different elements, and obviously bringing up the kids and the staff to do that was excellent. Could we ask if there were any, for our kids that are still here, if they'd like to come up and maybe take a picture with the school committee, we can do that. We can put some pictures up on the website.
That'd be wonderful. Yeah.
Facebook or whatnot.
Yeah.
So maybe all of our students, if you want to come up that are still here, we'll have them stand here. The school committee can stand behind them. Dennis, you get in with the kids. Hey, we got a roar. Yeah, buddy. You want me to get that, Dr. Hirsch? All right, thank you very much. All right, so you guys are gonna come right up front. You can put your ukuleles down. Yeah, you wanna stand right up close to the table. So let's have, height-wise. Two guys, good. Come on right up.
Yeah, parents too.
Slide over.
Maybe school committee in back?
Come on over this way. Come on over here.
Nice smile.
Looking good, we're all in. Slide right behind you, Ella. I slide back behind you. All right.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, we got a lot of pictures.
Perfect.
All right, let's all smile.
Hey, cheese.
Cheese?
Thank you.
Great, right? Everybody good? All right. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for coming. This is great. Thank you. I'll give Dr. Hirsch that drawer, okay? Thank you for bringing it.
Nice job,
everybody. Good job, guys. Excellent. Best one.
Wait till everybody.
Hard not to parent.
No, thank you. Okay, okay.
See him, I'm like. He knew too. He could tell. He could tell he couldn't do anything.
No microphone.
Has to be a lot of room.
Nice.
Oh no, we ain't got one.
Thank you.
Oh.
Gauntlet's been thrown down now.
Yeah.
And there's the two cards.
At our next meeting with Principal Murray, we're gonna make these two game.
I want to play.
Yeah, those are
If you had cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to?
Yeah.
Oh,
Can hardly wait to see what you have for us. Okay, well, that was really tough to follow.
Good luck.
So, let's take it down if you wish.
Bring your ukulele.
In terms of the expectation. No ukuleles tonight.
This is, so we flip-flopped our presentations for those at home who are watching the agenda. So we took the Byam first, and now we're gonna actually, Stephanie Quinn is our department coordinator for history and social sciences. I still call it social studies, but I know you call it social sciences. And so we're happy to have her here this evening to present a little bit of our K-12 work that's going on. And I don't think that is gonna work as a PDF, so I'll just help you kind of slide through the,
Okay.
through the slides.
So thank you all for having us here tonight. It's really a great opportunity for the departments to share out what we're working on throughout the year and what our fabulous teachers, as you saw from tonight, how amazing the teachers in this district are, and that was just a snippet of it. So this is my second year having the opportunity to work with the kindergarten through 12th grade, which is just absolutely a dream. Honestly, the elementary teachers are fantastic. They're all wonderful, and I really appreciate that opportunity to get into the elementary schools and bring social science down to that level as well in a much more cohesive manner than we've been able to before. So our first slide was our picture of our students who are taking civics at Chelmsford High School. Those students visited the State House. They've had opportunities over the last year. This is our second year running the civics course. They've had opportunities to meet with many members of the Chelmsford delegation, who've even had lunch with the Chelmsford delegation, which has been a fabulous experience for our students to really be able to connect and know that they can communicate with their representatives. I mean, for a lot of people, they don't have that opportunity on a regular basis, and our students are getting that opportunity, so that's been fantastic. The next slide is just my introduction that I'll be here talking to you tonight. The next two slides are really about demonstrating why
civics and social science is so important. The whole purpose of public education initially was to educate citizens. And so we're trying to make sure that everyone understands that that's one of our most important jobs that we're doing. In addition to all of the other subject areas that we're teaching, we really want to make sure that we're educating our citizens as they move forward, and not just citizens of the United States, but citizens of Chelmsford in particular. So I have quotes by both George Washington and Eleanor Roosevelt that attend to that idea. So tonight's overview is really giving you kind of what we're doing K to 12 quickly, but then I wanted to spend the rest of the presentation focused on civics and how we're working to embed and engage students in civics education K to 12. So we'll talk about each of those grade levels as we go through. So our K to 12 overview, so understand that social science is more than just civics. We have history, geography, sociology, psychology. So we're trying to understand the human condition. And so there has been a lot of work since June of 2018 when we received new frameworks, and the new frameworks in the state were adopted. So last year was our first year to learn about the new frameworks and get to see what they had for us. And this year we are working K to 12 to rewrite our curriculum in every single grade level to make sure that we're aligned and that we are focused on giving our students the best possible social science education that we possibly can. So tonight I am going to expand on civics, but I want to let you know that every grade level is doing quite a bit of work aligning and gathering new resources and new activities for teaching social science at every level. So one of the grade levels that I wanted to highlight, and this is where a lot of work is going to be done, and particularly at the elementary level as we get everyone comfortable with a new curriculum and gather our resources over the next couple of years, is focusing a lot of attention on the town of Chelmsford and teaching our third graders about Chelmsford. The new third grade curriculum is focused on Massachusetts history itself, so we do get to cover a lot of the American Revolution as they have in the past because it happened here, a lot of it. So, but we want to, I'm working with members of the Historical Society and Deb Taverna from the Garrison House to work on developing some Chelmsford-specific curriculum to teach the kids about the history of the town, gather resource from those two groups and from the town library in order to make sure that we can provide our students with an understanding of where they live and how this community works. I think that's really important. So we're trying to develop some activities. I've gotten a lot of resources from the Historical Society. They've been absolutely fabulous to work with, and we'll be doing a lot more work in the spring to develop some more specific curriculum to support the teachers and provide some resources for them. Grade 5 also has a revamping, and they are transitioning away from some of what they used to do on exploration and let's see, what else did they have? They had quite a bit of curriculum, but now it's very much focused on U.S. history, and it's really a broader introduction than what they've gotten in third grade that was just focused on Massachusetts history. So now they're going to go through the establishment of the colonies and the Revolution, and they'll talk more about the Constitution and understanding the foundations and principles of government. And we were able to secure a new text and resource for them. In addition, we've secured a number of other resources as well so that we're ensuring that our students are learning about history from a variety of sources and not just one simple anchor text. We want to make sure that our students are able to look at sources, look at a number of sources and be able to evaluate and analyze those sources as they get older and older. So understanding why sources matter is going to be an important component of this as well. And they're doing some great field trips. They always do the Freedom Trail, which is wonderful. But they visited the Commonwealth Museum, and I actually got to go with them a couple weeks ago, and I have some pictures to share from that as well. I think that actually might be our next slide, yeah. So at the Commonwealth Museum, which is the Massachusetts Archives building right next to the JFK Library Museum and the Edward M. Kennedy Institute for the United States Senate. So it's a fantastic history, civics section of Boston that just can't be beat. We are so lucky to have those 3 institutions here in our state. This was an opportunity for students to see what the history of Massachusetts was all about. And then they went and did an archaeological dig downstairs in their workroom, led by their fabulous instructors that they have over at the Commonwealth Museum. So the students were doing history, which was fantastic and engaging, and really the students had a lot of fun. So there's a lot of pictures of the kids doing the dig, answering questions, identifying what the different items were that they found in a house underneath Boston. So they were learning about why archaeology is important too. So it was a lot of fun activity. Grade 8 is where we're going to see some big changes in the next year. Last year, the governor signed into legislation that we have a new civics project that everyone is supposed to be doing across the state. And the state is encouraging everyone to move to a full year of 8th grade civics. We are looking at changing our curriculum at the 8th grade level, focused on providing what are the conditions for democracy. So what conditions have to occur in order for a democratic government to evolve and then persist? That's our big question for the students to answer by the end of the school next year. And so we will get into some world history in order to do that. And then for the second half of the year, it will be a lot of civics based. This year, we're piloting the project in grade 8, so they're going to be working on that 4th quarter. So we did 3 quarters of World History 1 and 1 quarter of a civics project where they talk about the rights and responsibilities of citizens and how you can get involved in your community. And then they'll be working on the project. And next year, we're going to look to see if we need to spread the project out over different quarters or if we're going to do it all in 1 quarter again. So we're going to be trying things out this year, like a lot of communities across the state. You can go to the next slide. So the civics project, and that slide's a little difficult to see, but the civics project is going to happen in both grades 8 and 11 because it needs to be done at least once in a high school and in a middle school that has the 8th grade civics curriculum. So we have modeled ours for this year off of the Center for Civics Education Project Citizen type of program. And so the students are going to be looking at conducting research to be able to explain some kind of public policy issue thoroughly. So we'll be doing it's research-based at the very first. In task 2, they need to identify potential solutions to that concern or to the issue. Task 3, they're going to propose their own public policy solution. It could be one of the ones that was presented, but they have to have a rationale and explanation as to why that public policy or why that solution might work best for their community. And then in task 4, they're going to propose a type of action plan. And we're working out how we're going to have the students be able to present to some of the stakeholders as well. So that's still a work in progress that we're trying to determine, because at some point we could potentially have over 800 students trying to find ways to present. So we're trying to look at creative ways in order to make that work and give the students a voice and let them know that it's really important for them to not only be involved in their community, but be proud of what they're doing within their community too. So for 8th grade this year, I believe our focus is going to be on trash. And so the students are going to learn, and we're going to learn right along with them, where our trash is going, who's collecting it, what members of the town, what town departments are involved in this, what other communities are struggling with this issue, if they are struggling with the issue, what are we doing about recycling? So things that they don't necessarily think about on a daily basis, we want to delve into pretty deeply and learn all about, and learn about how our town government actually can help us with this and what we can do to contribute to what happens in our town in a positive way. So you'll see a lot of kids asking questions about trash in the next couple months. Grade 11 is going to be more independent. Students have already started to work on those. So each quarter they're expected to complete one task that they need to do, and those students have the opportunity to either work individually or in small groups based on topics of their interest, because they are a little more advanced in terms of their research skills and their interests as well. So we wanted to give them a little more freedom in how they do it. The U.S. history courses also at grade 10 and 11 are shifting gear in terms of their time frame that we're focused on, because if you've tried to, the problem with history is that it keeps happening. And so our curriculum keeps getting more and more, and we don't have as much time as we would like in order to teach it all. So we are making some adjustments to our curriculum in grade 10 and 11 so that we can ensure that the students, by the time they end grade 11 with us, have had an opportunity to understand concepts and events that are affecting their lives today. That they absolutely need to know what has been happening in the last 30, 40 years, that previously our curriculum didn't always allow us to get to, or we would get to it and we wouldn't get to spend enough time on it. And they need to know what is affecting them directly today. And so we find that that's really important to do, and so our teachers are working diligently on making those adjustments to their curriculum right now. And next slide. So civics education, we are transitioning our 8th grade curriculum over, and then this is our second year of our civics program at the high school. It's still an elective. Last year we ran 3 sections of it. This year we're running 4 sections of it, but the students are choosing to take it, which is absolutely fabulous. This course is taught by Danny Richter and Julie Durkin at the high school, and they have done a fantastic job of securing speakers throughout the community and throughout the state to come and connect with our students. It's great when we have, school presentations, but we've found a way, including Dr. Lang, who came in just before the break, which was, the students loved it, by the way.
Incredibly well received.
He was. No, they loved him afterwards. They were very impressed. But it's nice because it's a small group environment, right? So they meet, the speaker will come and meet with 20 to 40 students at most, and so there can be a lot of interaction, and the students feel like they have some say in their community because they have an opportunity to connect with community leaders. So it's really been absolutely a fabulous experience for the kids and for the teachers and for the administrators as well in the building. And I think you can go to the next one. So these are just some pictures of our students when they went to go visit the State House, our high school students. And all of this work that we're doing is being done via Google. So we are spending a lot of our time creating our internal documents on Google so that we can all collaborate, and every teacher in the district has access to each of our grade level curriculum documents when we're done. So that will be an opportunity for us to really share with each other and add additional activities and lessons and primary sources that are easy to access, so we can ensure that our students are getting learning history from a variety of sources, and that our teachers don't feel like they have to create everything, that we are sharing out a lot of these ideas from each other and borrowing and making things our own, and really engaging them and encouraging them to own what we're teaching in the classroom. The next slide is my favorite as well, because we just had our geography bees at both of the middle schools right before the winter break, and we have our lovely winners up there. Gavin Lambert, who's in grade 6, was our Parker winner, and Alex Teeter, grade 7 at McCarthy. They are wonderful students. Their knowledge of geography blows so many of us out of the water. Both of them won the opportunity to take a test, which is not usually what you win, but that's what they won. So those students will be meeting with me by the end of this month to take a state qualifying test. And if they score within the top 100, then they'll move on to the state competition, which usually takes place the very end of March, the beginning of April. So we'll look forward to hearing on how they do. So the work ahead, because obviously there's a lot of work to do when you're trying to revise your curriculum in the K-12 and you're trying to gather resources. We're going to focus on that work at each of the different grade levels. We're going to review our pilot projects, because that's the stage that we're in right now. They're both in pilot mode in both our 8th grade and 11th grade. We'll make adjustments. We're going to sit through figure out what's going well and what maybe we need to change for next year, so that we can make sure that this is a successful experience for our students. And hopefully we will have many of our curriculum documents revised and updated and ready to publish by the end of the school year. So, questions?
Anybody have any questions? Donna?
Thank you very much. You did a fantastic job.
even though that was a hard act to follow from
That was
before.
really hard, so thank you.
I thought you did an excellent job and
Thank
matched
you.
them well. This is a tremendous amount of work. You're right, with the new state standards, it kind of turned everything on its head, causing a lot of districts to have to, redo or recreate, their curriculums, K through 12. So thank you so much for spearheading this. I know it's a tremendous amount of work. I think it's a great idea that we're putting it on Google, which means that it's going to be a living document, from here on out, as opposed to having to go back and rewrite things, every couple of years to make us current. We can stay current just, straight through, which is really terrific. I mean, you say publish for the community. Do you mean for the school community or?
For the school community, we'll be publishing, but they won't see the documents that we're working on right now, in addition to having the standards that we're working on and our essential questions that we want our students to be able to answer by the end. We'll also have the activities and resources that we're using hyperlinked in as well. What will be published to the community are those standards and essential questions. So we'll take that document, modify it, and publish those for the community to see, so that people coming in here know what we're teaching to our students.
Right, and I guess, the reason that kind of jumped out at me is when we go to town meeting, sometimes it's really hard to get, like, for example, town meeting reps or, people to even run for office. And it's really terrific, I think, that we're taking these steps to encourage kids to be active members of the community, in the hopes that maybe, later on they'll become leaders in their community. But I was going to say is that oftentimes at town meeting, people are question, whether or not we're actually doing these things. And it might be nice to have something on our website about what we're working on in history, so that, people will understand, the connection to the community, the connection to current events, as well as our very rich history in this area.
Yeah, so I am, as we're going through this, trying to get myself fixing that website page for social studies so that we're actually incorporating a lot of that information. So we're trying to do that. But I'm glad you brought up town meeting too, because we have Evan Belansky from the planning board, and we have Paul Cohen coming in next Friday to meet with our civic students to talk about the master plan for Chelmsford, and trying to get the students involved some way.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
And so it's really, the town hall, I cannot say enough about how wonderful they have been in sending people over, being willing to come and talk to our students as well. It's just been outstanding.
Oh, that's great.
Thank you. It's great to have a relationship with them.
Anybody else?
I'd like to just,
That's
is it okay with you? The collaboration with groups like the Garrison House is wonderful to see. I remember my children going in the second grade to the Garrison House, but maybe it can be brought up a notch in that collaboration to actually also contribute to the Garrison House and its ongoing history by the students. That would be great. The other thing I wanted to mention is, and I was talking to someone about this today, I think we're becoming very much an individualistic society, and we operate within a representative government type of society. And one of the things I see in schools, in my opinion, that's weakened a lot is representative government by the students themselves within the schools. So maybe this could be a little bit of something you can bring into the classroom to strengthen more that's representative government within the schools themselves. And I see some of it already happening at the elementary school. We saw those wonderful ambassadors. Student councils are becoming stronger there. And it would be wonderful to see that all across the board becoming a more representative of what you're actually trying to teach them in a classroom. Also, you mentioned that it's true you lead more than just history. You've got the psychology, sociology, what else?
Geography.
The geography group. I can't handle geography, never could. But one of the things I think is that those social sciences are also greatly evolving. How do you keep up with current texts and current materials for those classes? What do you do?
Well, all of our teachers, particularly at the secondary level, who are teaching the geography and sociology, psychology courses, have been trained as historians or social scientists. So essentially, they're really skilled at research. And they are able to, and I have done this myself, I've taught AP psychology for a number of years, we're constantly looking for new resources and new information. Psychology itself is going to change over and over every time neuroscience has become a massive field. When I first started teaching that course 20 years ago, it did not make up a large component of my text, and now it makes up a significant component of the text. And even if we can't always purchase new textbooks, we are finding resources online, different articles. We bring in resources from home. If I have a National Geographic article that I want to talk about with students, we'll read snippets of things and we'll really work. Our teachers are very skilled in being able to find the information and present it to our students in a way that expands beyond the textbook, because that's really important to us for no matter what subject that we're teaching, that they're learning from a variety of sources, and they're learning how to analyze a variety of sources as well.
Okay. Because I've heard comments before about the age of textbooks in those particular courses, so just wondering how you keep up with that. You're very enthusiastic. I thought you followed the ukuleles quite well. Thank you. Thank you.
Next year I'll bring it.
Couple quick ones. I know like the change in the civics, the focus on the civics in the 8th grade and then the high school has been pretty significant staff-wise. How have the staff, kind of handled that, and what did you do to support them as that major change happened, and what additional supports might be necessary going forward?
So we didn't go all out right away. We gave ourselves last year to review the curriculum, the proposed that was passed in June of 2018. So we took 2018, 2019 to review what the new proposals were and really start to think about what we wanted to ensure that we were focused on. So this year, as we've had more opportunities and more people who are skilled with using that Google tool as a collaboration piece, our teachers have been involved in, have been given a lot of time, because they are experts in this subject. They really are. Even if they haven't taught, someone's been teaching world history, but they're going to be teaching a U.S. history or civics. They're skilled researchers, and they're skilled in learning, and they love social sciences. And so they have done just a tremendous effort of being able to pull the standards that we're going to focus on, find appropriate resources. And so that's still the work that we're doing throughout the course of this year, and it's not going to be perfect next year. It just isn't, because it'll be our first year with a lot of new curriculum. So we're going to take our time, we're going to support each other, we're going to collaborate and focus on that as an opportunity.
Did they take advantage of any of the summer writing?
So yeah, we did. Actually, I had 10 summer writing workshops running this, which I don't know that I can handle that again next summer, but we'll try it. Yes, we had elementary teachers working on that. We had middle school teachers and some of our high school teachers working on summer writing, and I'll expect to propose some of those as well. Particularly, I know for 8th grade and the elementary in particular, who are gonna need that additional support for that. Yep.
I know we started the one-to-one learning in 9th grade. Do you see this as being helpful to you as we go forward, where the kids will have a variety of resources right at their fingertips, literally, to be able to look at? And is there any kinds of resources that you think as a district that we should have that will assist you, whether it be the hard copy or the digital going forward? And maybe you can't answer that now, but maybe to think about that.
Absolutely.
Because I think you're 100% correct. Teachers are constantly, I'm always looking for science articles. Right? The dentist's office, the doctor's office,
right.
Whatever periodicals, I get, obviously looking through. And I want to make sure that we provide those for you.
Yes, thank you.
So that you have those to be able to stay current. But I think people underestimate, as I said, the amount of work and time, which is constant, that it takes to stay current. And I want to make sure that we provide the resources for you to be able to do that.
Certainly. I very much appreciate that. We're looking at various resources right now that are both available online and in print, because I think it's important for students to be able to review and look at information from both mediums and from a variety of mediums. And so that's going to be really important for us. But I also can work with the Learning Commons and with the town libraries and with the Boston Public Library as well, in order to find different ways to access. But yeah, I have a running list, so we'll get to
I
that.
just talked to the director of the library, and I know she's very interested in collaborating with the schools
Yes.
in terms of being able to provide resources or whatever it is that,
Yeah.
that people think that they need.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, well, thank you very much. That was
Thank
great.
you.
I don't want you to feel left out. If you'd like to come up and take a picture with us.
Can I? I'm absolutely going to.
No.
Okay.
Maybe another day.
All right.
All right.
All right. Yeah.
When Linda gets back, we gotta keep
perfect.
things in order. Great, and actually moving along in the agenda this evening, next presentation, a little update. We're a little presentation heavy this evening, but love to invite Jody Lecture up. Jody joined us this past September as our Communications and Media. Thanks, Stephanie. Communications and Media Director. And we've been having some internal dialogue just about some of the changes that we're working on, and thought it was timely to have Jody come in and talk a little bit about what she's been doing over the last couple of months. So give me 1 second to get this up and going. And Jody, with the little mover, if you just click down on that, that'll move you right through the slides.
Okay.
It's the down button. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank
Hi,
you.
everyone. I'm Jody Luksha once again. So I've been here for the past 3 months. Yes, this is my 4th month. And I wanted to give you a quick update on what has been happening in terms of communications and media within the district. And hopefully, I don't think I can follow the kids and Mrs. Quinn, but hopefully I won't be that boring for you. So, let's see if this works. Oops, sorry. Okay, so the district has been really taking an in-depth look at the technology practices, possibilities, and direction needed to successfully engage our new digital generation. That includes our students, our faculty, staff, as well as our community. So general updates for me has really been my challenges to this new position within the district has been learning the tools like Blackboard, which is the tool that we use for our website. So really learning the back end of that website tool, creating templates within the tools to use, as well as, so what I've done is I've visited all our schools, met all of the principals and vice principals and as many people as I could to try to introduce myself and let them know what my role is here to help promote Chelmsford Public Schools within our community. So I listen to what their needs are, what their requirements are, what their hopes are, and all that. So I've also been trying to meet with various places within the town. I was recently at the senior center when our band did a presentation there, which is great, and I got to meet a lot of people there. I plan on meeting with the library and other people within the town coming up. I've also contacted our media, such as the Lowell Sun and the Chelmsford Independent, to introduce myself and get to know them so that we can develop a rapport. So I'm preparing processes and strategies. I've been working on creating those so people can understand what I need from them in order to promote our district. So it's also identifying, what are those challenges that I have and trying to come up with solutions for those. Again, relationships are a huge part of my job here, and I need support from various departments as well. So I'm sure this list will continue to grow, but my relationships that I'm trying to establish are with Blackboard. So that's really working with the account manager, going to classes and within that community to understand all the needs that we need for our website in order to make changes and create new content and update a lot of, what has been old. So identifying the key contacts at schools, I've gone over that. The fine and performing arts, really showing content, creating press releases, sending out press releases, and promoting the events, the PTOs, Chelmsford Telemedia, so giving them new stories and information, because they're always looking for things to televise as well. So that really helps. If I hear of something, I let them know what's going on in hopes that they'll, pick up the story and run with it. And local media submitting news and press releases and such. So to date, the actions completed on the website, so I've updated the carousel images and links if anyone's been on our website to see what's been done. Created a district headline page for our press releases. I've improved the social share functionality, and what I think I'll do is I'll go to the next page so you can actually see what's been done. So the social share functionality is really, there's a tab up top for social media in which I've added all of our social media pages where the community and people can connect with us and see what's going on in the schools. I've organized headshots of each page within the curriculum tab. I've taken each of the department heads and what they've done with their curriculum, and I've updated it into a content that is easy and clear and concise. So I'm still working with some of them, but it's coming along nicely. So I've updated the staff directory so that on every page you could see that little logo symbol that says staff directory. So it's ease of use for really everyone who comes to our website and is trying to find someone. So I've created a format to organize district administrator and teacher pages, which I've gone over already. And I also respond to help desk tickets, so if anyone has anything that they need changed on the website or any pages moved or anything that's going on, they submit a ticket, it comes to me, and I update the website. So the website for the next steps is to improve basic user experience, and I've been trying to do that over the past few months, reorganize information with staff, students, parents, and community. Transition, so this is another really big thing that we need to get to move forward with at some point, is transitioning, utilizing PDFs to alternative formats so that it's all-inclusive for everyone that comes to our website. I've been updating the content within all of the departments and trying to move forward with that to really get the most relevant and timely information on there. As well as I would like to update our website template this summer. Our website template is a bit old and the technology is not as advanced as it's become. So that's really one thing I'd really like to do. So how we stay connected, there we go. So with every message, we aim to get out there a strategic message in terms of connecting with our target audience, avoiding sounding repetitive, so we don't want to say the same thing all the time, speaking with inclusive tone like we, us, they, as opposed to he or she, present our messages with positivity, and be honest and transparent to our audiences. Our social media, we are currently using Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And within those audiences, we use Facebook for really the community and parents. And, there's over 1 billion people that are on Facebook, so it's a really good vehicle for us to use as a district to showcase all the great things we do here at Chelmsford Public Schools. Twitter is used mainly for news, publications, editors, thought leaders, teachers, that type of audience. And Instagram, we use for community as well as the younger generation. So I try to have our high school students, belong to it and get some information out to them, and so where they can see, all the great things they're doing as well. So really trying to encompass everyone within our social media channels. So sharing our learning in action. There we go. So I try to post things that really show the positivity in our schools, what our kids are doing, and how they're focusing on various curriculum to the community so they can really see all the great things we do. The computer science coding for second graders. People out in our community have no idea that kids in second grade code. Who would think, right? But the story we tell, it's so important because we tell them, yeah, your second grader is coding, and guess what? They're also doing so many other things. Like they go to the Discovery Museum and they're learning about bubbles, things like that. And about our Parker Middle School students, they go on trips to all these museums and learn about civic things that you've just heard about. So it's really, really a great thing to be able to showcase and tell our story to everyone out there that we can tell. So within Facebook, what I've done is we already had a Facebook page. It was just dormant for the past few years. So I reestablished it and trying to do engagement with two-way communication. It began in September, trying to tag schools and encourage mentions to increase engagement, and sharing the schools and community content on other community sites like Chelmsford News, all the various Chelmsford town sites, and wherever I can find the information to share to of people that may be of interest. Twitter, same thing, engaging images and video, tagging schools, teachers, clubs. I try to use the hashtags of Chelmsford PS, Chelmsford Public Schools, and CPS Lions Pride, because that's really, what we talk about a lot is our pride. So, and Instagram, I launched the district page in October, informing students of the district pages. So whenever I go to the high school and I'm in a classroom, or I try to speak to the students about, we have this page and like us on it, and you'll see, some really great information that's out there that's going on, and you may even see yourself on that page. And again, promoting Chelmsford Public Schools and CPS Lions Pride. And I wanted to go over, I'm not sure if anyone knows about Facebook Insights and what that means. So in terms of our district, we have a couple of things I wanted to point out was we had a 14% increase in the past 3 months of people that have actually liked our page and see our information. Our most liked and shared post was about Project 300, where we actually reached 5,167 people. 533 viewed our information. 354 had a reaction, which means they liked it or they shared it or whatever they did to it. they may have, well, we have 293 likes, but we also have the reactions is, you know, what people have done with it, not only with liking, but other things. Our most comments was of the Chelmsford field hockey players who really had this initiative to dig out the snow from the fire hydrants. And so that was huge because it reached 10,226 people within the community. 241 people saw it and reacted to it, liked it. And there were 3,267 engagements, which people shared or they happened to do, you know, they followed up whatever they did to it. So they engaged with that posting. So our response time, the private messages that I get, I try to answer everyone, and I always do. Sometimes it may take a little longer than others because I need to find out what the information is for the question. And we've had 48 messages received and responded since September. So at the top is our events. I posted 6 events. 6,100 people have reached them, and we've had 204 responses. 0 tickets because we don't sell tickets on Facebook. So, and also our audience is 79% are female and 20% are male. So, all you males, if you have a Facebook, like it. And so the new tools and memberships that I have are, we have a membership to the National School Public Relations Association, which is a really great resource for school public relations. It really helps with, you know, knowing what's out there, what people in the same kind of positions are doing, how they're showcasing their information, and really finding out really good information on that. As well as socialschool.edu, which is a social media public relations site that really helps, again, to understand about social media and how to engage the community, all different resources on that. So our existing tools are Blackboard, again, and Blackboard Connect. And our next steps, social media boosts. I'd love to start boosting things that are really important to Chelmsford Public Schools. For one, an example would be like social media advertising and boosts. Those would be for our CHIPS program, trying to get the word out to the community that we have a open house coming up. And to be able to do that, it is paid boost in advertising, but it really gives more people exposure to the information that they may not see otherwise.
Can you just explain a boost?
Sure. A boost is if you have a social media post and you want to get it out to even more people, like the shoveling the hydrants out. If we really wanted more people to show, you can boost that, and the demographics. They have demographics within Facebook that you can choose, and it'll show to a lot more people within the community. So.
And it's I know this, but I'm just kind of helping you for the audience at home.
Yep.
What would the costs associated with that be, or how involved is it?
It depends. You can really put whatever you want. So if you, obviously the more you spend, the more they're going to boost it. But you can even try to do a test pilot of $5, and that'll boost it more, depending on the demographics that you choose. So if you want more males to see that, you would choose males within an age range and income level. They have all different kinds of demographics that you can choose. So in progress, I'm working on Blackboard messaging templates to try to get templates for if there's early release days, if there's no school, if there's half days, just to really create those where we can just bang them out real quick to the community and on our website. And the next steps I'd like to do is really want to focus on the standard operating procedures for communications, really have an internal and an external communications plan to move forward with over the next time, and really review our crisis communications plan, because I think that really needs to be updated, and to let people know that we have one and really what we want to do with that. Public relations. So here are all, so that we have the Chelmsford Independent, the Lowell Sun, Wicked Local Chelmsford, and Chelmsford Patch that I try to send information to. And I have a targeted list that I send all of our press releases out. Depending on the content and interest, I might limit it or send it to all. I try to send out the social media that I do for the exposure and awareness. I try to tag those media outlets. And for the next steps, I'd love to maybe host a media reception for our press to get to know me and to know them face to face. And again, begin to think about how we can get more media coverage through press coverage through our media outlets. And looking ahead, so I've spoken to Jay about, Dr. Lang, about communication surveys. I'd like to figure out, I'd like to survey faculty and staff, parents, community on what they really want to see, how they want to be communicated with, if they're happy with all their communication, and how we can streamline that. So communications plan and guidelines. I'd like to increase our two-way communications on our social media and really with parents and community. We are in the process of developing a new logo and our template design in terms of for our stationery and postcards and letterhead, all that type of thing. We recently signed a contract with Some More, which is our newsletter brand that we're going to try to implement district-wide for all the principals and whomever else to use this Some More newsletter brand. Website update, I talked about that, and long-term planning, create a more long-term communications plan. Thank you.
John, you?
Oh, no, I was gonna say I did follow the site, though. The Facebook site, so we're good.
Oh, good.
So you have one more follower right now.
Yay.
20.5%. You've been doing this for 3-4 months. What are your opinion of the website? I mean, you're doing a nice job painting the house, but the pipes are still leaking and the wires are still frayed. I mean, you can't search anything on our website. I just for kicks, I just typed in strategic plan into the search bar and got nothing close to a strategic plan. What are your thoughts on the functionality of our website, I guess?
It needs a lot of work. I've been trying to really focus on pieces to start with. Really trying to work with our faculty on updating their pieces first. So I'm really working on the curriculum at the moment, and trying to just get the most relevant information, the most up-to-date content, and get rid of all the old stuff that is on there and all the things that are really not relevant to anyone. So that's really what I'm trying to do at the moment.
Mainly just working on the content right now, and then eventually
Yes.
the functionality.
When you update the website template, will that fix some of the problems that Dennis is talking about?
Yes, because there is new new technology. Our template that we have right now is from 2013, so it's 7 years old, and a lot of things have happened technologically in the past 7 years. So really trying to get that updated.
To Dennis's point, I think one of the things you're seeing is not all of the documents or the different links are active within the website. So you might type in something in the search bar that maybe is tying to a document that's been inactivated just because it wasn't refreshed. So I do think we thought about, or we didn't start about, but we actually went about this by starting with each department. So if you're looking at the main screen, you have all the different departments organized, and actually having them go in live to their page and actually look at all the content that's currently showing. Is stuff live that's supposed to be? If it's not inactivated, if there's new material that needs to be put up, go through that process and put it up. At the same time, behind the scenes, as Jody mentioned, Blackboard is a template-based and template-driven product. So, like, our look is a particular template, but they obviously have newer templates that are out there now. By going in and doing all this work now, once we adopt and kind of move over to this new template, all of the live current information that we want to have on the site is basically going to filter over to the new template. You're not going to have to reload it. It's just going to have a little bit of a different appearance and look. It'll be a little sleeker and newer. But we do think that some of that functionality will clear itself up because you're not going to be linking in the new template to dead documents from the old template. So it's time consuming. It just takes some time. Because again, you have to go painstakingly through every single department and document that's there and make sure that it's what you want it to be. If not, you have to update it. So it is a little bit of a process, but it is something that's going to take this school year to really finalize. And then I think as people leave for the summer, we can do that behind the scenes refresh with the template so that over the summer there's a new look to it. And when we come back for the fall, hopefully it'll be a fresh site at that point.
I'm glad that you're doing the communication surveys to the parents, the community, and the staff. I know that in one of the strategic plans, some of the feedback that we had from community members was that it's hard to even know sometimes what kind of communication you want. So, for example, what you get in elementary school is overwhelming, and then in middle school it's a little less overwhelming, and by the time you get to 10th and 11th grade, there is no communication. And I'm not saying that there isn't communication provided, it just may not be with the frequency or in the depth that maybe parents are used to, and maybe that's not even something that they want anymore. But I think those surveys will be helpful in us being able to figure out what is the best way to provide, or what types of communication. I love the S'more brand newsletter. I think that's going to be fantastic. I think that will help to be able to make these newsletters across schools very consistent. One thing I did have a question on is when we have these individual pages, so I'll use Parker as an example, who updates those? Do the principal, Jody, do you have to do that? So let me give you an example. I wanted to find out when the PTO meeting was, but it wasn't on the events calendar on the page. So I go to the PTO page to find out when the meetings are scheduled. And I was thinking, all that kind of stuff would be, if it was like right on that calendar when you get to the Parker page, maybe that would be helpful. But I don't know who updates those things.
The school.
Does that make sense?
No, I hear what you're saying. The school itself would be responsible for maintaining like their school calendar.
Okay.
Some of the PTOs, like that, as that particular example, almost operate separately from the school.
Okay.
So those events certainly could be added to the school calendar, but I don't know if maybe the PTO is just updating and posting on their particular site.
Right.
That's something when Jody talks about trying to come up with like the not policies, but like more of a district-wide
protocols.
guidelines and protocols, that could be picked up at that point.
Yeah.
And you would actually talk about, who would be responsible for updating that.
Okay. Because I think that one of the things that it's really hard to get information because it's all over the place.
Exactly.
And you have to know where to look. And even with our district page, sometimes like I hear about the concerts, I'm like, I didn't even know about that was happening. And so it would be nice if like there was one place that had all of the information so that so that
I'll let you know when the next concert is.
I agree with you on everything
you know what I'm saying? So that like if a community member wanted to see when something was happening, they would only have to go to our district page, and they could say, oh, there's a PTO meeting, or there's a concert, or a play, or whatever. And I think that that's good advertising for us, because then that information is readily available to community members, and we get more participation.
That could be something to look at when you're talking to them about the new template. I don't know if the calendar functionality within Blackboard has always been kind of lousy. I don't know if the functionality is any better in the new versions of the product, because a lot of times, I've seen districts that don't necessarily use Blackboard, that, say have a district calendar that you load events into, and you can select if you want to push those out to your school calendars, so you're not having to enter the information more than once. You're entering at one location, it's filling out.
Right.
But then the parent on the other side can decide if they want to, sync up their personal calendar
Right.
with just, say, like an individual school or the whole district, and they'd have some options along those ways. So we can look into that when they're talking about the upgrade to the site, just to see what kind of functionality, even like, say, with the calendars, because it's not great right now with the product line that they have.
Thank you.
Other questions, thoughts?
Well, it's only been 3 months, going on 4. There's a lot of work that, first of all, I think it's a big position for all of this. And so I'm wondering if some of this actually needs to be done outsourced, in a sense, and then allow for more ability to concentrate on creating those communication protocols and consistency in newsletters and two-way communication and all that. Because I think right now, it's probably one of the key things that I hear from folks is that the communication is not always ahead of of the game. So in other words, we get the negativity before we are able to put out what the real message is and what's really going on. And I'm sure that, that's something over the next few months that, you're going to be able to focus more on, but don't know, and that's something for you all to work internally, but I know that if this, in any organization, the amount of work that it takes to create those things and consistently apply them is substantial. So that, the other thing I wanted to ask you, but I do want to ask you a question though, that was just a comment. My question is, you've been going around, you've been meeting folks, what have they told you that are some of the key things that they would like to see us focus on in communication?
Mainly, honestly, it's updating the website, getting the most relevant information updated. So it's been a lot of that. It's and really, telling me, finding out like what the events are and coming in and covering those events or having them text them to me. I provide my phone number, all type of information, just so they can get that information out to me so I can get it out to the community. But really, a lot of it is our website is a really
Has been
big
the
pain.
key
Yeah.
that folks have told you.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm not technologically that great, but I was wondering, on the website where it says calendar, is it possible to take the fine and performing arts calendar and just paste it into there, or the athletic calendar, so there'd be a link? No, it's not.
No, it's not. I thought of that too.
Okay.
And no, it's not. Like literally, you have to go in, as far as I know, and do every single enter.
Oh, okay.
So that I know of. I may be wrong on that.
Like, because I know you can go to the curriculum, fine and performing arts, and click on
Right.
the events, and then you get all those events already printed. So there's no way to get a link to that and then just put it as a separate link under the calendar tab?
I can
Or,
definitely look
do it maybe
into
with
that more.
athletics too, just even though it's not in one district.
It would be on
one
page.
place where
Right.
people could go.
Even with colors, I thought
Yeah,
of we
yeah.
could do colors or something like that. So
Because there are, as Donna said, so many great activities.
Mhm.
And
I'm familiar with the athletic one because all the MVC teams that they
Right.
play in do like a shared calendar. And you have to know where to go, but you go to the athletic website and you can click on the calendar and it populates all your sports. The nice thing about doing it in a package like that is that anytime there's a change, like if you just want to follow a particular team, you can go in as a parent and pick that team, and then you're automatically getting alerts, and you can sync it to your calendar. I think the hard part about just taking like a hard document like that and manually typing it into the district calendar is inevitably like a contest is going to get changed or moved, and you're never going to be able to keep up with it. But I like your idea about just even on the calendar site, if when people go to see the school calendar, if there's just an extra link there to be able to go to athletic calendar and band calendar, or whatever it ends up being.
Maybe something we need to
just so
look
that people can go to one site for calendars and click on it and be able to get their updated information.
Right, it would be great to be able to sync it all and,
Right, that would be
you know,
perfect.
over the cloud, it would be beautiful, but I'm not sure that that's available on this template. That's something
And
we
it
need
may
to
be
look
too much
into.
for people too. I mean, that's the other thing. It's like, what do people want to have synced in their phone? Like, I might want to have my own kids, if they're playing a sport, come up in my calendar, but I might not necessarily want every single sport at the high school coming up. So I'd like to be able to find some ways for people to choose which calendars they want to link to, and then have it be updated. But that may be in a release, but we can take a look at that.
All right, anybody else? Okay, all right, well, thank you, it's a
Yeah,
big
thank you,
job.
Thank you very
Thank you for your
Good start,
time.
so, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on.
Next
item-
update.
Come on up, Lorraine. I haven't had to talk too much tonight, which is wonderful.
You guys want to go over?
Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, you can, by all means, David, no?
They want to get their picture taken.
All right.
No, actually, I invited Lorraine tonight for item number 4 this evening. This is the, just a little update. Some of the committee members had asked for the new social worker position that we created at Parker this past year. If you recall, McCarthy currently has 3 school counselor positions. And at Parker, the numbers are basically balancing now between the 2 schools. And Parker had 2 school counselor positions. Instead of just adding a 3rd school council position, we tried to add a social worker position, which just brings a little bit different skill set to the job. It certainly still works with kids and staff on a daily basis. So I forget which member had asked for a little update on this, but Lorraine and Jeff Parks, who couldn't be here this evening, put a little report together. But I actually asked Lorraine and Jeff to come and just share a little bit about how this first year has gone. I know they're very excited about the candidate that they were able to attract. And I don't want to steal your whole thing. So if you want to just give us a little update on the position, how it's going, and initial feedback, that'd be great.
Sure. So in the memo, there's a little bit about the background on the position, some of what Jay said around what we really were looking for when we decided that we wanted to, have another position at Parker. And we really were looking for someone who had a little bit of a different skill set in terms of connecting with the community and families, particularly our families that have maybe a higher level of need for whatever the reason might be. And we talked with the team at Parker. I spend every other Friday morning with the guidance team at Parker, and that consists of the school counselors, now the school social worker, the school psychologist, Dr. Parks, Mark Sousa, the assistant principal, the nurse, school resource officer, and the supervisor of students. And that team works together to talk about case management and other things that are happening with particular students and communicating with each other. And that we met with a subset of that team to talk about what the needs were at the school. And Jeff sort of met with other staff too, but this was the team who was going to be the team that this person was going to be a part of. So, and I think a lot of what that team was experiencing and wanted to help meet the needs of folks who were maybe experiencing issues with food insecurity, finding housing, meeting basic needs, and as we don't like to think about those things occurring in our community, but we do have many families who are, experiencing various levels of crisis. So we wanted somebody who had experience in that area. So Julia Vogel is the school social worker at Parker now. She has a background in social work. She is a licensed mental health counselor, and she's also a school social worker, school adjustment counselor. They're the same license in Massachusetts. And the great part about that is she's experienced, and she came really ready to hit the ground running and to work with. She came to us from Boston and really had some really great experience working with families that had some higher level of need. I think her biggest learning curve was sort of what's available in the Chelmsford community, what are the resources, how do we access them, and so she's done an amazing job of working both in the school, and I sort of outlined, participating in school-based meetings and with MTSS and PBIS and all of our social emotional learning initiatives and grade level teams and the student support team, but also getting out into the community. She's already worked on creating a binder of resources that can, be available to the other mental health staff, and is working on putting those onto Google Drive. She's met with a lot of community resources, including the town has a new social worker as of last summer. So we've had a chance to meet her. I've had a chance to meet with her, and so has Julia. And I'm in the process of having her actually meet all of the social workers and school counselors in the schools. And there might be some joint cases that we're sort of working on together in terms of things that might come up, and also helping us to understand what her role is and how we can access her if we have a family that needs housing assistance or help getting food assistance or things like that. And Julia also has really been, I think, a couple of things that we really focused on when we were hiring her are experience with a diverse population, and also experience with folks who were recently immigrating, and experiencing some of the issues that come along with that. People who are new to the country, but also people who are new to Chelmsford, and helping them understand what some of the resources might be. And I think particularly those who, and this hadn't been something I thought a lot about, but when we have students moving during the year, moving here from a different town, it often signals that something has occurred in their lives. A move for any child mid-year or at all is challenging, right? But then if you move mid-year and the older you get, the harder I think that is, for a middle school student who has been in a different community and established all of these social connections, and it can be just a really challenging time for them or their family, or it might be an issue of divorce, or their parents got a new job, or the parent got a new job, or something like that. So she's really been helpful with those students. And also, I think the team has been excellent at working together to identify students who may have had an existing relationship with a school counselor or the school social worker, where they might keep that going, but also loop Julia in so that she can provide an added level of support. And she also does help with some school counseling needs for some cases that come up that have maybe a different level of challenge. And she also has been part of, we're doing the revised anxiety and depression scale for grade 6, and she's been helpful with sort of looking at the data with myself and Katie Sims, and thinking about what are maybe some of the resources that we need to support any students who are experiencing a significant mental health issue. So crisis intervention with students, but also families. And I think it's been a really great add to the to the school and support to the school. And I'm very grateful to Dr. Lang and all of you for supporting having this position. And I think the team at Parker has just been stellar in just really supporting her and helping her to acclimate to the community, and it feels like it has gone really, really seamlessly. So I want to thank all of you for that.
Any questions or comments? You know, so this seems to be working out very well at Parker.
Yes.
As you know, the coordinator of the whole district. Sure. Do you say, I wish I had another one here, or,
Well, I do think it's something to think about, particularly if either we had I think the sort of answer to that is it depends on the situation. I do think that it's a position, the skill set that that a social worker brings is different than that of a school counselor. And I think, I'm a school counselor by background, but I also think that having the family and community connection, not that our current counselors don't, but there are so many needs, right? And I think that what the school counselors maybe were finding and are finding in some cases is that the students with the highest level of need might have been taking it might be fewer, but taking a disproportional amount of time, which is okay, but it can be hard considering the caseload, right? So I do think that we should think about it, particularly if we have a staff turnover, we can find somebody with or somebody retires or leaves or whatever it is. Finding somebody with some of those strengths would be great, and I think it is something to think about. I think our school psychologist really, really works so hard in helping with the clinical and therapeutic needs of those students and families, but in terms of the sort of broader things that do become barriers to learning, if your basic needs are not being met, if you're not doing well at survival, then thriving is really difficult. So I think looking at our community as possibly having some changes in demographics and things like that, I think it is something to consider going forward.
Yeah, sure. Anybody else? Maria?
So what is the collaboration with the town and that social worker?
Yeah, so we have, I had a chance to meet with, her name is Jen Lance, and I had a chance to meet with her, and she has been working, so the town social worker works mainly with the town, but she has come in and talked with Julia, with the counseling team at the high school, and with myself about sort of her role, which is multifaceted, but she can help families with housing applications, with getting food stamp assistance, things like that, and she wants to really be a resource to not just to Julia but to the schools in general, and helping us to basically know when we have a family that's in crisis, and they have kids, their kids are coming to school every day, and we might be sort of on the front lines of seeing some of those things.
So that family would then go to her at the town?
They could. It depends on what the situation was, what they needed. So she could be a resource in terms of helping them fill out a particular application. Like there are certain things where you might need to go to Lowell to access something,
teamwork and so
but
on.
we also have a place in Chelmsford that some applications can be completed for housing and other things. So helping families know that there's also a town resource, and sometimes they sort of work back and forth, the two of them, with because they're both new too, learning the resources of the town. And
So, Lorraine, just to clarify, you're talking about the community coordinator. correct position?
Ye-
Hired?
Who's a
Yes.
social worker? Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
she's a social
But that's
worker.
what we actually, I think we voted to,
She met us.
town meeting did, yes. In order
Okay.
to help put people in touch with resources that they may need.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So she's so far she's just come and introduced herself, helped us to understand her role,
Okay.
and she's going to do that with other groups too.
So I'm trying to understand, if I can, exactly, so let's say a student comes into, and I'm assuming she's working mostly at Parker.
Yes.
Okay.
She works only at
She
Parker.
works
Or-
only at
Yes,
Parker.
Julia
So-
works only at Parker.
So
Yes.
let's say we have a student who's at Parker,
Mm-hmm.
not anywhere else, who is having a difficult time with food and
Right.
needs, and says something to her counselor, and the counselor then refers her to Julia, and Julia
Right.
steps in.
Right, exactly. It sort of depends on the situation where sometimes Julia is going and meeting with the school counselor who maybe already has an established, relationship with the family. Sometimes it's separate, and because, the current school staff know the case the best, aside from the incoming fifth graders who she's, kind of growing with. Yes, they would meet together and then sort of decide
So
whether
she's
she might
assigned-
do a home visit, she might have the family in.
So she does intervention and consultation.
Yes.
Okay.
And she works, and her role as a guidance counselor is fifth grade at Parker?
No. So the school counseling caseload is shared between the two existing school counselors. She has some of those cases, but it's not any particular grade. Her involvement in the case is dependent on the needs of the case, not the grade of the student.
Okay.
So she's like 5'8", she can do the whole
She can, yes, she's the whole
Okay.
school,
Depending on the
yeah.
need.
And it's Parker, so it's not really district-wide right now with this, what she's doing.
Right.
Correct. Although I did hear you say that there's been some talk, or I don't know if this is gonna come from it, but like, say, feeder schools, particularly Parker.
Oh,
or
yes.
Schools that feed up, or Parker kids going on to the high school, that she may now be spreading out to play a role, because she'll know the families.
Right.
To help with some of those transitions.
That's true. So, and I have, last year I saw sort of a little bit of a need to look at the continuity of services. So when a student transitions from fourth grade to fifth grade, and or 8th grade to 9th grade, making sure that folks are involved, or if a family has multiple children at multiple schools. So she could potentially get involved with families who have kids at different schools, but she wouldn't necessarily be involved with a family who doesn't have a student at Parker.
Okay.
Did you
At
see
that
what I'm
point,
saying?
she wouldn't necessarily be providing direct intervention, but more consultation to the people working with these kids.
Right, exactly.
To kind of bridge the gap between.
Exactly,
each of
and
the
helping
schools.
with communication,
Right.
because often we'll have students at different schools, and we don't all have the same information based on the age of the child. We maybe know a lot less about something that's happening in the family of a kindergarten or from the perspective of the student, but we might hear more from a 7th or 8th grader who has, who's in the same family. They have the ability to report more, so we might need to sort of have Julia communicate with the other schools when the student has siblings at the other schools.
And it would be nice, I would imagine, for the families and for the kids to have that, that consistency. That
Yes.
one person that remains consistent as they're going from.
Exactly.
School to school.
Exactly.
So for the other schools who don't have Julia in this
Yes.
position,
Sure.
what happens with that?
There's a couple different things that happen in those situations. One is that if there are multiple students at multiple schools, and it's not Parker. I can have sometimes been involved. The coordinator of nursing, if there's sometimes gets involved in those situations, depending on if we have a DCF involved family and there are multiple kids at multiple schools. I might get involved in those situations. I mean, certainly the counselors do their very best to communicate with the other folks, but in terms of being like kind of the middle of the spoke in the wheel, because I get around to all of the schools, often I'll get involved in those cases consulting with those cases, not providing counseling or anything like that, but providing support or services and helping the schools to communicate with each other around like, well, this is the most current information that we have. I definitely meeting with the elementary school counselors and also meeting with and principals as well. And then the middle school and the high school team, they're definitely, we have a number of families with multiple children at multiple schools.
Creating a binder of community resources,
Mhm.
is that then shared with the
Yes,
other schools?
so that's the idea behind the Google Drive. I'm sorry I wasn't clear about that, but that is the idea behind the Google Drive, is to, once it's sort of in its most complete form, to share that across. What she has at the moment tends are some resources that might be mostly for middle school students, but also might apply across the board, middle school age students and families. So our idea is to have that on Google Drive, and we're, as part of our digital learning this year with the school counselors and psychologists, we're using a shared drive to share certain information that is like this resource guide. So we're sort of working on getting up to speed on doing that, and certainly different different teams are at different levels with that, but the idea is to share it. Yes.
Right. Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you for the.
All right.
so much.
Thank you for having
Thank
me.
you, Lorraine. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Good night, guys.
Thanks.
Get your homework done.
Would you ever mind taking like a 2-minute break?
Not at all.
Okay, if we just take a 2-minute break? Okay.
All right, we'll
Recess
recess for
for
2
2
minutes.
minutes. Back in session.
Next up, capital planning recommendation.
Yep, number 5, this is just, I think we informally talked about this at a previous meeting, but I just want to share with you the formal result of the capital planning committee. So as you recall, at some point this fall, we had taken a look at all of our different capital planning projects that we wanted to put forward for consideration to be funded at Springtown meeting, and then have funding be made available for July 1, 2020. So we had 10 different projects that we talked about, and we actually prioritized, ranked them from 1 to 10. And on the sheet in front of you, you can see the results of the project is the blue projects were recommended to go forward to town meeting in the spring. So that includes that additional money that we needed to complete the HVAC repair projects at Harrington and Byam. Year 2 of the 3 is security upgrade, which year 2 is the high school upgrade for next summer. 2 of the kitchen projects, both Parker-related, that was number 3 and number 6. That was the code compliance upgrade, as well as the total renovation of the Parker kitchen. At McCarthy Middle School, also funding to renovate the auditorium at McCarthy. That included new seatings and new seating, lighting, and sound system at that school. The red projects were not approved, and the reason we actually ended up approving, Jeff did a very good job on the committee kind of fighting for our interests. There's limited amount of money that we actually have to appropriate for all these different projects, and we really wanted to move the Parker kitchen project forward and do the code compliance as well as the renovation at the same time. At McCarthy for the auditorium, we had that built in there at the 669. We also wanted to upgrade the lecture hall for the 110, but if we didn't peel off the 110 from the award, then technically the 660, or whatever it was, the 641 would have been in jeopardy at Parker. So what we decided to do was advance the Parker project instead of leaving $500,000 worth of projects on the table. As we're receiving quotes now, we're in the process of receiving quotes for all the different work to be done this summer. What we're hoping to do is actually come in under budget. But then in particular, even at McCarthy, because a lot of the seating in the auditorium is expensive, but it'll be the same seating vendor to do the lecture hall. So we're soliciting pricing at the same time to do both, and we're hoping maybe there'll be some economy of scale that might allow us to do that. But I just wanted to tell you that's why item 5 didn't get picked, but we did go with 6. Just that was the only one that was out of order. And then when we're doing our deliberations, when Bill came up to talk about the security upgrade, we actually, he was able to do the firewall. I didn't realize this at the time, the firewall upgrade as part of that grant that he got last year with the DOE. So we didn't want to ask for something we already did. So we voluntarily removed item number 9, so I just colored that green so it would stand out. It wasn't that that wasn't funded. We didn't ultimately bring that forward as a recommendation. So all in all, just shy of $1.9 million of school department-related capital projects will be going forward this April for town meeting for approval, so we're hoping that that gets approved. I think these are actually very significant projects to us. I'm very happy that we're able to get these accomplished. In all sincerity, again, thank you for your work on that committee, because it's several meetings you have to go to, and you have to take into consideration really all the town department requests, including the schools at the same time. And everyone has really legitimate projects that they're putting forward for this funding. And in the end, the capital planning committee ended up recommending a little bit more than they had wanted to, funding-wise. I believe on page 2, let me just go to it real quick. Yeah, it ended up being $3.8 million, not to exceed, was approved when the group was looking to come in around 3.5. So again, as everyone's going out to get the quotes now that we know which projects are in play, we're hoping to be able to bring that number in closer to the 3.5. And in the back of my mind, I'm also trying to see if we could possibly pull off that McCarthy lecture hall. Just some economy of scale, being able to do the projects at the same time if you're already mobilizing and having the vendors there. But all in all, again, good news, but just wanted to officially convey that to you. So you will see this in the town meeting this April.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff.
It was interesting. And John Souza does a wonderful job.
Yeah, he organizes the whole thing and really keeps it all in play.
And all the departments, very cooperative, because
Mhm.
everyone needs what they need, but they understand, the needs of the other departments, so.
Right.
It was very interesting, so it was good.
Good. Item 6, ironically, we had the, I think the community forum back in December, and we were talking about how we didn't receive the notice from the SBA yet, that we weren't gonna move forward in last year's application. We knew it was coming, but the very next day, we received the notice. So just to officially let you know that we did not, in the 2019 application process, our high school application was not moved forward for consideration. The MSBA has put out their new dates for submission of applications this coming spring, and so we need to convene and continue our discussions about putting in another application, which will be due this year on April 8th. So probably for the next school committee meeting, I'll back into a calendar for you, because we have to approve a project. It needs to get Board of Selectmen, Select Board vote, and signatures and whatnot, so I'll back into a timeline so that we can submit by the 8th. And also have a discussion and talking with Dennis. I think it is timely for us to just kind of go back and review how we got to where we are, why we have submitted the high school project for the last couple of years, what some obstacles might be, just so that we can kind of have that discussion again. We spent a lot of time in the community forums, my first or second year here when we were talking about it, but it has been 2 or 3 years, and every once in a while, someone in town will ask, well, why are you going for the high school project and not, an elementary school or middle school project? So we're gonna spend some time and kind of lay out, hopefully succinctly, how we got to where we are without having to rehash that whole study, and just have that conversation. And then again, I think my recommendation will be to continue to submit the high school project for this year, and maybe talk about, I'm gonna look right now at the groups that did move forward for middle schools and high schools, see who their designers were, architects that might have helped them with the application, and see if we may need to contract with one of them to take a look at our application, to see if there's little tweaks that might need to be made to have ours be a little more attractive. And then set up a meeting with the MSBA and our state delegation to actually talk about our application, why it's important to us, and do a little bit of the kind of lobbying for on our behalf. So I think we should do that this winter as well. But between the next meeting or two, I'll get you that timeline. I am already working on the application, so you don't have to worry about that. And I am just gonna try to see if we need to have a firm help us do a little bit of a tweak. Nothing significant, but just to give it a read through and see what might be lacking or what we might wanna emphasize to make our application stand out a little bit more than it has.
And a lot of times it's just who you're up against, right?
Well, it really is. Every year it's gonna come down to the competition and who applies that year. And it has been the schools that are really in the worst shape are the ones that are getting approved. I just wanna make sure that, if we're close one of these years, that we have something in our application that stands out over the others. Just because of the amount of money that's involved as well, you don't see many high school applications each year go through. You might see 2 or 3 high schools move when it is much more economical to build, say, an elementary school than it would be a high school. But again, I think that's why it's important for us to go back and rehash that conversation about why we're actually going for high school as opposed to an elementary school. And I think we just need to kind of stick with it. It's not uncommon, it really shouldn't be seen as a sign of rejection that, 2 or 3 applications are rejected. I believe Tingsboro, who just got approved for a new middle school, it was 7 or 8 times to get approved for that middle school. So it often does just take that long to get in the pipeline. You have to apply every year to let them know that you're still interested and you're still wanting this project. But I would like to see if over the next couple of years we can try to advance that project. I know at our last fall town meeting, and then even in previous town meetings when John Souza does his discussion about like debt service and what might be coming off, and really there's a window over the next couple of years where there is some debt coming off from prior projects. So if it's gonna happen and it's gonna be at all possible financially, really over the next 2 to 3 years is ideal for us, probably timing wise, to be able to make our best pitch at trying to move this forward. So I think we keep full steam ahead. Just wanted to give you the official letter, and then let you know that we are working on this project.
I think there was an interesting article in the Globe recently about the aging school facilities, particularly on the East Coast, where they tend to have more of the older buildings. And yeah, it was actually it was really good, and it might be worth checking out.
The Boston Globe?
I'm sorry, Boston Globe. I think it was about a month ago.
Okay.
And then I also think there's some discussion on the federal level now too about what to do about aging facilities and whatnot.
Sure, yeah.
Yes, absolutely, because, this is becoming an increasingly large problem for cities and towns across the United States, and, it's very expensive, so, what can they do on the federal level? So I think that might be worth following as well.
Okay.
Was there anything in the new funding from the state that would go towards MSBA, so none of that's gonna?
No, the MSBA, their whole funding mechanism was set by legislation to be a certain percentage of some type of revenue source. So that isn't changing at all. So I don't see them getting, an inordinate amount of new money to be looking at.
Is there any way to change the presentation to make it more visual to the folks who are reviewing this presentation, to show them the impact on the rest of the system? For example, let's say that our demographics are changing as they are in the elementary level, and that bringing that Parker building into the picture for the elementary level is really important to us in the next 2 to 3 years, to not create
Right.
some kind of,
I think it's important if we have that meeting with the MSBA executives to explain, why we're looking at a high school project and kind of where we're at. Our application itself is more of like a blind application. They're gonna first look at the condition of the school as one of the first criteria. And unfortunately, our high school is our newest school, and it's in very good shape.
right.
What we need to convey to them is that we're not looking to knock down that high school and just
Right.
build a new high school for the sake of it, but that we would really, as part of a district-wide plan, repurpose that building. But I think as much as we can say it in the application, they're really just looking at the condition of the high school for that. I think we need to add that's our story more in the meeting with the MSBA so that they can understand, oh, well, this is why they're applying for a high school, and, at least give our application its look, with knowing that backstory.
I think that would be crucial.
Yeah, and again, I think maybe getting another couple sets of eyes on it from groups who recently submitted, even just the verbiage or, whatever they use to help kind of have their application stand out, aside from need. I don't question the need of any of the schools that got approved, but just to try to make the strongest case for us that we can.
Okay, great.
Yep.
It was December 3rd, 2019, was the article.
Oh, December 3rd? What was it called? It was just about schools?
Dead mice, crumbling concrete, education reform won't fix.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll
so-
remember that one.
I'm sure you will.
Thank you. Item 7 this evening is our school improvement plans for the current school year. So this just gives you some perspective, and again, these will all be individually loaded up to the school's websites in the coming days. This is something that George will help us with. But we asked each of the schools to provide us, they work with myself and Linda around what their different goals for the year are, what their different focus areas are. And from time to time, people will ask, how does this relate to budgeting? Because budgeting is going to be coming up. What are the different initiatives that the schools are working on? So just wanted to share that with you. So each school puts a plan together with input at their school level. There was one page out of order today. I did fix it. One of the high school pages jumped into the McCarthy presentation, so I flipped that around. So the version, if you're seeing it online, is correct at this point in time. One of them has a little spacing issue, but nothing significant. So you have the reports for our high school, 2 middle schools, and 4 elementary schools.
Now, who puts these together?
The individual, the leadership teams of the school, so like your principal, assistant principals, would work with their building level team to identify whatever their work for the year is gonna be. Oftentimes, it could be, say, like grade level teams, how at, say, at the elementary level, we have team leaders, so like you have a representative from each grade. Some of these topics will be discussed at those levels. Ultimately, the principal of the school is responsible. The assistant principal does a lot of the work as well. The deans at the high school may give their input to this plan. And then between them and the curriculum office, the curriculum coordinators, Linda, they'll formulate it into this type of a plan.
And
this
then the
type of a
School
document.
Improvement Council, though.
I was gonna say,
yeah,
school
the
council
school-
involved in all
The School
The
Improvement
school
Council.
improve, well, yes,
Yes.
the parent group.
Yes.
They would as well, but I
Yeah.
thought you meant who actually did like the nuts and bolts of putting it
Okay.
together. But no, like a school improvement group at the school would look at this as well.
I wonder if they had input, yeah.
Yeah.
In addition to that, who else follows up with them on whether they're meeting these goals or not meeting, because, for example, let's look at the high school one, if combining level 3 and H2 and so on. So that would mean actually curriculum, right? So so this plan is in place. It's at each school.
Correct.
And then incrementally, who looks at these and where
So
people
like
are at?
this would be work that would have started this fall, like they would have started putting this
Okay.
together this fall. Over the course of the year, this is like the areas that they're focusing on. And then when Linda will do her, like, you know, she does the academic update at the end of the year, she would report on how the schools have met or not met, or had to tweak these goals for the year. So you'd get, like, say, a follow-up report like this at the end of the school year, maybe early summer, indicating how schools had done. But which one are you looking at in particular?
No, I'm not looking at any one in particular. It just seems to me that this is pretty extensive in terms of touching every single area of the school. And, and how, you know, how do we know that people are truly working towards these goals and what's needed, resources are needed and so on? How does this work into the strategic plan?
Well, it does. It's all aligned. When you get your updates on the strategic plan, a lot of this comes from these particular goals. Like 3 years ago, when we put the strategic plan together, there were different areas that were gonna be focused on each of the years. These obviously align with that plan. So that's why you will get a report at the end of the year that touches upon this. You're gonna see a lot of common language in these individual school plans because they're tied to the district strategic plan.
Okay.
Isn't there a template, though, that school improvement committees or councils need to follow? I mean, it's a state law, right, to have one of these per school?
You do. The state doesn't dictate like a template. They tell you what elements have to be in it.
Okay.
This is just the template that Chelmsford's used forever.
Okay.
So this is a template that, just for consistency's sake,
Mhm.
that we use, and then we use the same template on the strategic plan.
Okay.
So they will tell you like what elements you need to have, but they don't necessarily give you a template to use.
Okay. I just had, with regards to the plans, could we put some of these, you know, going forward on, you know, maybe some of our agendas just to kind of go over? Because I had some questions on some of them.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing we can do, if you want, the schools usually try to finish these up for the year. A lot of them, if they're like data related, unfortunately, you just don't get the MCAS data back
Right.
quick enough to be able to have it in place on day one. But usually around like Columbus Day, you know, early October, mid-October is when we're trying to finalize these. I can make a conscious effort if you'd like next year to try to get them to you earlier in the fall as opposed to now. And then even when the individual schools come in to present on their topics, you could ask them individual questions if you wanted to about them, or I could ask them to make sure in their presentations they leave a slide or two to talk about like key elements of their plan. We could work that out if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even, yeah, I think they'd like to talk about, you know, how it is that we can best kind of review these, like, you know, I just have some questions, you know, so, you know, I'm just looking at one right now, and it says, we're gonna look at reductions in the proficiency gap of all subgroups by 10%. You know, how do we arrive at 10%? You know, like those kinds of things. I was just kind of curious as how, you know, how it is that we're coming up with these numbers.
The metrics that they're
Yeah,
using.
exactly, yeah, how it is that we're determining what those are.
And they're not gonna be the same in every single school.
No, and I understand that, yeah, absolutely.
We can report on that
All
for
right,
you.
thank you.
Example, there's a mistake in one of these. That SMART goal number 3 for the high school, it should be Middlesex Community College, but if Merrimack is creating one, let me know.
I'm sorry, I gotta get you where
It
you are.
says Merrimack Community College. SMART goal number 3, high school. But,
It's gone down.
if Merrimack is creating one, you let me know.
I think
Yeah.
you caught that one, yeah.
Okay, so, that's minor. What I'm thinking about here, same thing that Donna said, I think we need to visit these a little more, in a little more detail, because I do have some questions as well on some of these. The other thing is the School Improvement Council, which I believe is comprised of parents and community members and teachers. There's one particular, I was part of it at Center at one time. How often
Some
do
of
they
them call
meet?
them the school site council.
Do they meet regularly?
I think there's like a statute that basically talks about the composition of these
Requires it.
groups. I think they minimally have to meet 2 or 3 times a year. I think most meet quarterly, but I could find out for you
Just seeing
meeting-wise.
how those are doing.
A lot of times, it's the school site council in the groups. A lot of times also, the people melt. So it's like, people who are on your PTO might be people who are on your school site council. But, yes, I can get you those, that information.
Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit more about just kind of the composition of those. I actually was involved in the one in South Row. It was incredibly interesting.
It is.
And one of the most interesting parts that I found was is we had to have a community at large member.
Yeah.
And that was really terrific to have someone come in and to offer a perspective. It might have been, someone who didn't have, well, actually, they didn't have kids in the school system anymore.
Right.
But just as I said, coming in and kind of offering the perspective of maybe as someone who had kids that went through it, or just someone who was living in town and had questions about, the school in their community, in their neighborhood, and what some of the goals were. So I think it's something that it's maybe underappreciated because we underreport on, what they actually have to do, and it is a big task.
Yep, no, we can do that.
And one more question. This new funding, Chapter 70 legislation that we
Yeah.
have talks about monitoring schools and so on.
Right.
Is any of this going to be useful for us? And
It is, and I was talking, that's gonna kind of come into the next item as well. By the end of January, we're supposed to get whatever, again, you talk about templates, whatever template
Guidance.
and plan design that we need from the DOE. And then we have to submit our plan by April 1st. So even if we kind of meld these 2 items here. When we're now putting together our strategic plan for the next 3 to 5 years, I'm actually recommending that we wait until January to see, because that's gonna be the template that we now have to use to submit those annual reports. And we're also gonna have to submit periodic progress, like progress monitoring reports. So I wanna see what the DOE is gonna make us use as a template, because we, in my opinion, depending on how it looks, it'd be advantageous to us to just adopt that template going forward, so that we have some consistency in schools, on our website, when we're posting all of the different reports, and even when we're reporting out. Instead of having, say now, this document, our strategic plan looking a little bit different, the document we provide to the state looking a little bit different, where we have to provide this state document, let's wait till the end of the month and see what they're going to actually make us submit to them. And see if we like it, we can just use it. If we need to tweak it or whatnot, and at least have all those elements to have them, just to make our communication more streamlined.
Is this on the idea of the coordinated review?
No, so this came along with the new Student Opportunities Act.
Right.
So when that legislation passed, and districts are now gonna be receiving this money, as the DOEs, they have to approve your plan about how you're gonna spend that money.
Okay, I see.
So basically, again, we're not gonna be receiving a significant amount of money, but every single district in the state is going to have to submit these plans on an annual basis, and then submit periodic progress reports on if you're meeting the goals or not in the plans. So what I'm suggesting is, let's see what that template and what the reporting requirements are gonna be. We're supposed to receive that by the end of January, because it's due to the DOE by April 1st. And let's take a look at that and figure out, do we actually wanna now, say, either adopt that or modify it in some way that will have all of our different reporting elements in the plan on our own documents, so that when we're doing, say, school improvement plans, or we're doing the district strategic plan, or we're doing these reports, we can have a common format. And just, again, for consistency, for people reading these and for reporting out on them, I think that would make a lot of sense for us.
And it's not just budgetary.
No, no, it's not budgetary at all, because the budgetary is gonna get reported, like when Joanna does the end of the year financial report, that's when the money will be reported. They wanna know more like, I'm thinking, they're gonna wanna know more like academic, like how are you gonna use those funds?
And who's gonna audit this?
The DOE. But again, they're gonna look at different districts based on. No, but they're gonna look at different districts based on your performance level.
Right.
So I don't think we're gonna be scrutinized to the level of, say, another district that is in higher need and it doesn't quite have the performance elements that we have. Nonetheless, every single district is gonna have to do this, and they're gonna have to adopt, and they're gonna have to use this formatting for the reporting. So I think it's to our advantage to just wait a couple of weeks and see what it looks like, and try to streamline everything.
And we're
that's
sure
what
we're
I was
gonna get it, right? This is not gonna be the dyslexia guidelines where we're waiting forever.
Well, it really can't be. And I was at a luncheon where the commissioner came and spoke with us about all these different changes. And they supposedly have to, by April 1st, approve the plans because the funding is then gonna flow for July 1. So unlike the dyslexia one where that was depending on funding or whatnot, I think because the act has already been approved, we're gonna have to do this. So again, I think this first year, they have to give us a couple months to put it together. They're telling us they're gonna have all the information to us by the end of January. I think that's pretty realistic. I don't think they're gonna, cause they have to form the group that's gonna look at these and review them and whatnot. So that's gonna take a little bit of time. But I think that's, would make the most sense for us. And again, we're not gonna have multiple forms and reports out there. And that might get at both of your reporting questions. Because if there's reports that we have to submit to them based on these plans, we can submit it to the state and give it to you at the same time for your progress monitoring. Okay. And then if there are additional questions on these, I'm happy to talk to you either offline individually, or we could have schools come when they come to do their presentations if you want to address any of them. We certainly can talk about them.
Ukuleles were not part of Byam's.
They were not.
No, we're not.
They were
Still
not.
fun.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any good?
Anything else in the strategic plan you wanna discuss at this point?
No, just number 8, I had just provided for you, that's what I was gonna talk about, how we're gonna have to be providing that report to the state. So I think basically at this point, just to give you an update, so we did have that second planning session. These were some of the notes that we took that particular evening, just so you could have those. As far as kind of where we're at in the process, we did receive the parent feedback. We're still kind of sorting through that and using some of that feedback to inform the work that our teams are doing around different initiatives. The staff survey has the staff survey, we have 3 schools in so far. Basically, this week, the first week everyone came back to school, schools are using their staff meetings to kind of announce the survey, to start having staff take it. So 3 of the 5 schools have already had their staff meetings, so I was actually looking at some data earlier today on those. And the rest of the schools have them either by the end of this week, or I think a couple have them next Monday. So we should have staff survey feedback back by early next week. We'll go through that, we'll put a report together so you have that information. I think if we looked at, again, by the end of January, kind of seeing what that reporting is gonna look like, I think if we in our minds kind of had an update, a review, a draft document prepared sometime in the late February, early March timeframe, we could talk about if we wanted to have additional community input sessions or whatnot on the draft plan, with then kind of a target date of around April 1st, again, just to align with the state. Around having that plan be out there. Knowing, again, it's gonna be a moving document, a living document that, even if we say we're gonna do something, now, 3 years down the line, it might happen quicker, it might happen a little bit later, but at least we'll have a document to be working from. So, but I just wanted to share this information with you.
Anything on strategic plan? You good? Okay.
Good. Okay.
Great. Multifunction school activity.
Yes, this is just an update on your bus that came into use this past summer. It's gotten great use. It's been very well liked and received by the high school. We have a number of clubs and athletic teams that are using the bus. One of the things that we had said we would do is basically by season, kind of track usage and potential savings from using the particular vehicle. So you can see after just the fall season, this came online around September 1st, and we went right up until the Thanksgiving break. The savings was just shy of $10,000 for what we would have had to pay a contracted vendor to bring either our sports teams or our clubs out to these different competitions. In the list, I did account for, there were some uses of the vehicle that we used because we had the vehicle available and it was an extra resource to have.
Would this be like the Boo Bash? But continue, sorry.
Superintendent's office.
You'll notice that I took no credit and no savings in the Boo Bash.
I did notice that.
The vehicle was available and it served its purpose. But more so like, say, there were a couple, like the rugby team went to a competition where they normally, the kids would have had to drive on their own, but they didn't have to. The TV club got to use it a couple of times, where in the past, kids would have either driven on their own, or it would have been like an extra bus, or parents would have carpooled as well. So I didn't want to, take credit for that, because it's really not a savings. It wouldn't have happened in the past. I wouldn't have rented a bus to win the Boo Bash, but, I used it because it was available. But again, we'll document this season, and I actually think the savings are gonna be greater after the winter season, because you've got some smaller teams, your basketball teams, carry less kids than, say, the football team, so it's really getting a lot of use. And, again, I think in a very short time, it'll pay for itself, so. We appreciated you supporting it, the purchase. It's really been very well received, and just wanted to show that it actually has been cost effective as well.
It's just not just athletics too, because there's the debate team in there.
No, it's athletics and clubs.
Special education.
The sped classes
So it's
are
not
using it
just,
during the
I
day.
know there was a concern. that it'd
TV
just be-
club? I mean,
Right,
awesome.
not just
Yep.
the athletic teams that are using it, so.
Yeah, no, it's getting a lot of use.
Good.
All right, so that's for you. Number 10 was our personnel report. This is not a lot of activity during the school year, but just your personnel report for the month of November. These are all there were a few new hires, we had a couple of resignations, and we had an assignment change within the district, just to keep you in the loop on the personnel comings and goings. No action needed, just sharing. Happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Questions on the personnel? John,
And then,
good?
No questions on personnel.
last, just 4 trips. A couple of these came before you when Jessica Nolet came to talk about some of the cultural exchange programs. I said I'd formally put them on for a vote for you. And then we had, I think, one other trip come through. So there are 4 field trip requests for you this evening. First one is Chelmsford High School. This is a year from now for a world language exchange program. Pretty much corresponding with February vacation to Malaga, Spain. These are our kids going to Spain. As part of this exchange, we would be hosting students from Spain here next fall. No permission for that because they're actually coming here, but you would see some of the students from Spain here next fall. Number 2, the Chelmsford High School, the band, chorus, and orchestra. Every either 2 or 3 years, they do this trip to Orlando. And this is they need to start their planning for the Orlando trip. That will be February of 2021. Third trip was the Chelmsford High School, again, the World Language Student Tour over April school vacation week in 2021. And last, tour of Italy. I'd actually like to go on this one. April again of 2021 to correspond with April school vacation week. And this is one of the tours that the Fine Arts Group, Lauren Cochran's group, that they do a different tour every year. So these 4 trips for your approval this evening.
May I?
Yeah,
All right. I make a motion to approve the conference and field trip requests as presented.
Second?
Okay, any questions on any of them, or any comments?
Did they need a chaperone for Spain?
It's a long time.
All right, everybody good? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, 5-0.
Great, thank you.
All right, any liaison reports?
Yes, so, right before the holiday break, I had the pleasure of attending the Byam and Harrington Combined Holiday Store, which they ran on a Saturday over a course of a few hours, and the pleasure of judging the gingerbread contest, which was really amazing, actually. And those gingerbread houses were displayed at the library over a period of time, and some of the judges were also Chelmsford Library staff, which was really nice to coordinate things, with them. The kids were creative, the family seemed to be enjoying it, and I don't know what the result is yet, but tomorrow there are 2 PTO meetings that I'm attending, which is Harrington and McCarthy, and I'll find out.
All right, anybody else?
Let's see, Parker has their PTO meeting this Thursday at 7 o'clock. South Row has theirs next Monday. The Chelmsford Friends of Music has their meeting on January 16th, and they're having their bottle and can drive drop off, so they're just dropping off at this point, this Saturday from 10 to 2. And CPAC, Special Education Parent Advisory Council, will be meeting on January 23rd.
I'm going to the Alumni Association Board meeting tomorrow night, and then on the 17th at 1:30 is the CHIPS PTO.
And then I just have buy-in tomorrow.
Can I ask a
Everybody busy?
question?
Yeah.
The bottle and can drive, where it's in the wintertime, do they still drop them off at McCarthy, or do you drop it
Yes.
off somewhere else?
No, you drop them off, but they just throw them in the trailer, because it's a
Oh,
little too
okay.
cold to sort right now.
Okay,
So,
but you still go to McCarthy?
yes.
Okay.
All right, any new items that people would like to bring up?
There is one, I'm trying to think how to word this, but, I'd like to talk about, I know we've been discussing diversity, over the last, several months, and I think that, it's an interesting time in the world, and I think it would be worth kind of revisiting, our, policy on diversity and, inclusion, in the public schools. I think it's just a good reminder, at this particular time when things can be, very divisive and uncertain in the world, about where the Chelmsford Public Schools stand in terms of supporting all students.
Take a look at that, sure.
I think it's also an important, given that we have the communications presentation today and going forward in the whole communication setup, thinking about what language we're using when we're doing our advertising for positions, when we're out there, putting anything out about our schools. I think it's important to have some consistent language that we agree on about diversity and what our policy is. That would be good.
Anybody else?
And then, just, I know we're gonna talk about the, MSBA, projects again as we go forward. Maybe we could loop in the comprehensive facilities plan too, at the same time, just a little bit to kind of look at that and, our ongoing plan.
Okay.
For, maintaining the buildings. I mean, who knows how long it's gonna take.
Capital one?
No, the one that, was it Dorn Whittier did?
Yeah, the comprehensive facility
Yeah.
assessment had kind of like two offshoots. One
Yes.
was the long-term, which is really like the MSBA application. And then the short-term one was the, basically tied to our capital plan.
Yeah, that's the capital plan,
So like
yes.
the annual capital plan, but we can
Yes.
take a look at that.
Yep, and also, just to make sure, that's gonna sound weird, but I was thinking about, do we coordinate, like, for example, with the DPW, to make sure that they're doing projects, at the same time, we're doing projects that they're coordinated so that, we're not doing one thing and then having it undone by another project that may have to happen in the schools.
Yeah, I mean, even when we sit to like put the capital plan together for the year to figure out which projects go forward.
Yes.
Like I'll sit with Paul and
Okay.
Gary ahead of time and
All right.
we're all on the same page about those.
Okay, good, that's good to know. Thank you.
I had just a couple things. So I sent out an email a few days ago regarding a few issues. One was getting an update on some ongoing legal issues, and as I mentioned in the email, the lawyers would be able to come on the 28th. They wouldn't be able to come on the 21st, which is our next scheduled meeting. So I don't know if anybody would have any problems with moving our next meeting to the 28th. That way we can have them come in, do an executive session beforehand, and then have a regular meeting.
We can work it out.
Is everybody
That's fine.
okay with that? Okay, all right, so that will work
All
out.
right, I'll make that post, so we'll post on the website that we're gonna move the meeting on the 21st to the 28th. And then I'll work with you ahead of time. We'll post an executive session at 5 that evening, so 5 to 6 executive session, and then we can have the
Okay.
regular meeting start at 6.
That work out?
Okay.
Sure.
Five, okay? Yep. The second item was regards to some study committees that were formed, where we did the negotiations. There were some issues that we weren't able to reach agreement on, but we did agree to form some committees and discuss those particular issues. So, talked with the superintendent. I think it might be a good idea, since these are sort of part of the negotiation process, to have a member of the school committee involved with it. So the three different study committees, one was on substitution by support personnel, one was on sick leave bank, and then the last one was on compensation for coaches and activity moderators. So if anybody, I know Donna, you expressed something about sick leave bank and you were involved with that with negotiations. Maria,
I'd love the activities
you
if
were
it's possible.
interested in that, John or Jeff, if you're
Yeah,
interested in either
I'm
one.
interested. I need to work out some schedule stuff.
Okay, so just let me know, if not, I can take on one of them as well. But I think it would be good, you know,
Yeah.
to have a, kind of an idea of, you know, where everybody stands on those particular issues, so.
Do we have a presentation coming up from the social emotional learning? Is that part of our schedule?
Yeah,
Guidance
see,
counseling?
that would fall under, like Lorraine coming in to do like her full presentation. If it overlaps a little bit with Katie Sims, because the two of them together kind of share a lot of the SEL work. But I can find out for you which night would be better.
They are on the schedule?
Well, they were on the schedule, but it's just, I think they were on different nights, and they both have some overlapping pieces of the SEL. So I'll make sure whoever's gonna kind of take the lead, because they'll each present on their own department. But then whoever's gonna take the lead on the SEL, I'll make sure you know ahead of time.
I'd like to make a specific request, if we can, for that presentation.
Yep.
It would be really important to us, I think, as a committee, to look at some statistics here and to know some data, not really statistics, more data. What are we looking at in terms of, like tonight, when we asked the question about the social worker, and we had a presentation about the use of the social worker at Parker? I mean, we don't know how many times she's actually had to intervene or become a part of helping a particular family at Parker. We don't have that data available. Another thing is that a few folks have talked to me sometimes about that in the middle schools, we may not have sufficient access to an actual psychologist for students. And I'd like to know more about how many interventions they have, how many students actually see the psychologist, maybe how many students have IEPs in a particular school. That type of information would
Like
really be
just general, like
important,
caseload type?
so that we can understand that, you know, how, in each house of the high school, there are these number of students. This particular psychologist there's one psychologist assigned to this number, on a regular day sees these many students, you know. That type of thing, I think, would be important
Okay.
for us to
Let
know.
me see what they, I mean, some of the generic information, like, you know, number of students in the house, or how many are on IEPs and things like that, that's easy to get. I don't know what they keep for record keeping now as far as, like, their caseloads, or how many they see in a particular day, things like that. But let me see what, I mean, I'm sure there's data there. Let me see what is already readily available, and I
Okay.
can make sure that we can look at that when either Lorraine or Katie comes.
Just so that we have a good sense of what the need really is.
Yeah.
And it's not questioning whether people are doing their work or not. It's just to try to understand what that need is.
Right, okay.
Thank you.
One last thing, what I'd like to try to do in either our next meeting or the meeting after is take just a step back and just look at our goals again and just see how we're doing. And same thing with the superintendent in terms of how he's doing with his goals. So just something to kind of keep in the back of your head, and maybe start looking at what we've done over the last 5 months or 4 months, whatever it is, and what we still need to do. So either the next meeting or the meeting after, depending on what the agendas look like, try to do that.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna guess there's no public comment, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5-0.